Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Konoha. My wife is Kaguya. Chapter 51. Report. Just as representatives from many countries were laughing, a notification came from outside the tent. What's the matter? Tell me. A representative chuckled and ordered the soldiers outside the tent. We have found traces of Emperor Zu. The soldiers outside the tent once again conveyed good news. What? Is it true? That's great. Another representative trembled with surprise. Once the Zudianzi really falls into their hands, it means that this battle can be declared total victory. Even though the concubine of the emperor, who looked like a monster, has disappeared, as long as the Emperor Zu is in their hands, there is no fear that the monster will cause some trouble. When Xiao Fan planned to make a roundabout way back to the country of his ancestors, due to bad luck, he was eventually discovered by enemy soldiers. Then, Xiao Fan, who had recovered some chakra, started a guerrilla war with these soldiers. Because Xiao Fan is the only one left now, his mobility has been greatly increased. Therefore, Xiao Fan, who follows the principle of coerce when you need to, and do what you need to do, as soon as he encounters a large enemy force, he immediately escapes, and once he catches the small group of troops who are alone, then, sorry, don't even think about seeing the sun tomorrow morning again. However, there are also outstanding people among the enemy generals, otherwise Xiao Fan would not have suffered such a defeat. When they used a relatively small group of troops as bait to lure Xiao Fan could not restrain the excitement in his heart. Greed and impulsiveness were finally intercepted by these guys in a valley, and they could no longer escape. My life is over. Looking at the large group of dark figures around him, Xiao Fan let out a long sigh. Perhaps, he will be the most tragic death of a time traveler in history, right? Originally, Xiao Fan just wanted to hold Kaguya's lap safely, reach the peak of his life, defeat the other country that covets the land of his ancestral country, and then explore his way home happily and easily. However, he did not expect that he would eventually die before leaving the army. How could he not be allowed to make a hero burst into tears? However, Xiao Fan didn't know that even if they were to deal with his monster concubine, these people would not let him die so easily. After all, without a hostage like Xiao Fan in hand, who knows if that big demon will go crazy? By then, they won't even be able to sleep peacefully. After all, no one knows what weird ways the monsters can kill people. When Xiao Fan was about to be captured by the enemy, on the other side, Kaguya had already brought Ano safely to the sacred tree. Kaguya stretched out her arms as if to welcome her new life. At the same time, a ray of light slowly fell from the sacred tree and fell in front of Kaguya. Kaguya held it lightly with both hands and caught the light in her palms. Kaguya opened her mouth and gently bit the ray of light. When she took the ray of light out of her mouth, a small slit suddenly opened on her forehead, and this slit suddenly appeared suddenly. It opened wide, and inside, there was an eye with strange patterns. When the eyes on Kaguya's forehead opened, his whole body suddenly burst out with endless light, sacred and peaceful. Bam! Without seeing Kaguya's movements, she appeared directly high in the sky, and the air waves swept across the earth, setting off a hurricane. Emperor, concubine. In the distance, the villagers from the country of origin who were following Kaguya's traces stopped one after another after seeing such a scene, not daring to make any more rash moves. And the leading man, who originally thought about taking the emperor, instead, was stunned in shock. At this time, the only word, finished, lingering in his heart. Regardless of whether Kaguya is a monster or a goddess, it is obvious that Kaguya should have started to go crazy at this time, and as the leader who deceived the people of the ancestral country to kill the emperor's concubine, it can be said that he will not die well. It's a very merciful punishment. At this time, Kaguya is like a fairy who is about to ride the wind back, flying towards the end of the sky, as if she will never walk in the world again. My God, my Lady of Heaven. Faced with such a situation, some people finally began to be unable to bear the pressure, and couldn't help but fall to their knees on the ground. My Lady, my Lady. More and more people in the ancestral country seemed to be enlightened, and they knelt on the ground and prayed for Kaguya's understanding and blessing. But, will things be so simple? Just as everyone was kneeling down and worshipping devoutly, a huge crack suddenly began to appear in the sky, and as time went by, the crack slowly opened, just like the crack that appeared on Kaguya's forehead before. Like that eye, in this huge crack that slowly opened, there was also a spherical object that looked like an eye. Light up this world, infinite Tsukuyomi. Kaguya stared at the endless land and finally said this coldly. Om. The sky was trembling, the earth was screaming, and then, the blood-red eyes in the sky suddenly became clear in an instant. Immediately afterwards, endless white light burst out from the blood-red eyes, and in an instant, the white light covered the world. At this time, no matter who it is, all human beings living under this starry sky have the same spiral-shaped pattern appearing in the depths of their eyes, and under the reflection of this light, all human thoughts seem to be he was so rigid that he couldn't even move at all. Bam! Bam! At this time, the sacred tree changed dramatically, and endless branches and vines stretched out from the ground. They overturned the entire land and engulfed all the humans on the ground. I saw strips of white silk and satin growing out of the branches that were wrapping around humans. These white satins were like shrouds, wrapping all humans in them one by one. When the earth returned to silence, only Kaguya and Aino were left beside her. As for Xiao Fan, he was wrapped in white silk and satin on the sacred branches and sent to Kaguya. Hi, Xiao Fan, whose hands and feet were wrapped in white silk satin, forced a slightly flattering smile out of his face. No choice, after swallowing the fruit of the sacred tree, Wei gave Xiao Fan it felt a bit more mysterious and unpredictable. He was not sure whether the past relationship between them could still leave a deep trace in his heart. Kaguya lowered her head slightly and saw the white satin moving slightly, completely wrapping it as if she was going to be made into a mummy. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't want it. Xiao Fan looked at the white satin that had been wrapped around his neck and couldn't help shouting in panic, wife. Good wife. Kaguya-sama, just go around the little ones are timid, so don't scare me. At this time, Xiao Fan was about to cry. Kaguya, who had eaten the fruit of the sacred tree, started to disown her relatives. Unexpectedly, he, a dignified time traveler, did not die on the battlefield, but actually to die peacefully in your own dream. This is really a peaceful way to die. Okay, Master Kaguya, please stop scaring the Emperor. Look at the Emperor. He is about to cry. He is so pitiful. Aino couldn't bear Xiao Fan's suffering. He was so frightened that he couldn't help but plead for mercy. Crack! A wind blade appeared out of thin air from Kaguya's hand, and without even seeing her move, the wind blade appeared above Xiao Fan's head, cutting the white silk that was bound to him from the divine branch down. Puff! The white satin wrapped Xiao Fan and fell from the sacred branch to the ground. Then, with the help of Yi, Xiao Fan finally broke free from the white satin. At this time, the huge eye in the sky was still emitting endless light. Under the reflection of this light, Kaguya said calmly, "This land will be ruled by me, together with you." When Kaguya under the light said such words, Xiao Fan saw in a trance that a Wu Zetian-style empress emerged from the sky. To be honest, Kaguya has changed a lot compared to before. In addition to an extra eye on her forehead and a pair of thin horns on her head, her temperament has also undergone earth-shaking changes. When Kaguya was born, although she was cold and elegant, she was still more or less humane, and as time went by, the relationship between the two became closer. But what now? Now Kaguya's whole body exudes endless fear and power, as if a god has come to this world, and there is no trace of the warmth he had before. Xiao Fan didn't know how he should get along with her in the endless years to come. After all, as long as she wanted to, she could give herself immortality. Next, what we need to consider is how to develop this land, and how to enhance our strength. Just when Xiao Fan was feeling melancholy, Wei suddenly turned his head and stared at Xiao Fan said this. Oh, that's right. Xiao Fan couldn't help but nod when he saw Kaguya turning his head to look at him. I don't know if it was Xiao Fan's misunderstanding, but he always felt that when Kaguya looked at him, his expression had softened a bit. What do you think about the next direction of this world? After sitting down in Kaguya's original residence in the country of ancestors, Kaguya asked quietly first. This is really difficult. Xiao Fan sighed. According to the original direction of history, you should have been pregnant with Hagoromo and Hamura at this time, and then after you raise them, they will seal you again. But don't say you are pregnant now. We haven't had love yet. How can a child be born? When it came to the end, Xiao Fan habitually became glib, but in the end, Xiao Fan suddenly realized that the Kaguya now was no longer the Kaguya she had been in love with before. I always feel that Kaguya is becoming more and more terrifying now. As a result, Xiao Fan closed his mouth in fear, silently waiting for the punishment that he didn't know where to come from. However, what Xiao Fan never expected was that Kaguya gave Xiao Fan an answer. I once said that I am repelled by your body. Wait until you take back your body one day. It doesn't matter if we perform the rites of Zhou Gong again. Facing Kaguya's words, Xiao Fan suddenly widened his eyes. He never thought that Kaguya would actually say such suggestive words, even though all this happened. The premise is based on Xiao Fan getting his body back, but this can already be said to be a breakthrough, right? In any case, he, Xiao Fan, is also a little looking forward to, right? If a person doesn't have some hard-to-achieve dreams, what's the difference between him and a salted fish? However, what made Xiao Fan very confused was that since eating the fruit of the sacred tree, Kaguya gave him the feeling that all previous connections had to be redefined. Even their previous friendship, it seemed like there wasn't much left, but now, with Kaguya's attitude towards him, it seemed like nothing had changed. But what's going on? Xiao Fan said that his head hurt and he couldn't figure it out. Sure enough, don't you want to guess what the girl is thinking? Xiao Fan couldn't help but mutter to himself in his heart. I think you should also know that for me, even now, there are enemies that are powerful enough to rival me. Then, sooner or later, they will come to this land. Before those people come over, we must be strong enough to compete with them, otherwise, the consequences will be disastrous. Kaguya's words were filled with an unspeakable worry. Those people, Ano on the side couldn't help but asked with some doubts, who are those people? You don't need to know this now. Knowing the existence of those people in advance will only increase your worries. Kaguya flatly rejected Ano's question. Oh, okay then. Ano followed suit. Since Kaguya didn't want her to know, then she wouldn't know. Okay, now back to the topic. Kaguya relied on her powerful aura to draw Ano and Xiao Fan's attention back to her. Next, how should we develop this land? You two, what do you think? I'm just a maid. I won't get involved in such high-end issues. Let's go, I'll make tea for you. After saying that, Ano stood up and said, dong, 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 left the room. Therefore, Kaguya's attention was all focused on Xiao Fan alone. Faced with Kaguya's gaze, to be honest, Xiao Fan really felt a little pressure. After barely ignoring the pressure that Kaguya gave him, Xiao Fan combined his previous life experience and soon, he had a better understanding of it. Some ideas. As the saying goes, there is strength in numbers. It is obviously impossible to resist your powerful enemies with just the three of us. Therefore, the first step we need to take is to start from let some good people be released from the sacred tree and let them work for us. After sorting out his thoughts, Xiao Fan put forward his first point of view. I also know this. Kaguya nodded and affirmed, not only can these people released be driven by us, but we can also make them have more children, so as to provide more resources for the sacred tree. Nourishment. I'm afraid it's a little inappropriate, right? Xiao Fan couldn't help but frown slightly. It's not that he couldn't bear the loss of these lives, but purely from the perspective of interests, Xiao Fan felt that doing so would not maximize the interests. Xiao Fan has never been a holy mother. It can even be said that to a certain extent, he can still be hard-hearted. After all, since time travel, many people have died at the hands of Xiao Fan, because there are more and more people who died because of Xiao Fan. Apart from the slight discomfort at the beginning, Xiao Fan felt that watching them die was similar to the chickens, ducks, fish and pigs he saw in the vegetable market in his previous life. What difference does it make if food dies? It's just a matter of death for both left and right. Chickens, ducks, fish and pigs can die, and so can humans, as long as he and the people he cherishes are fine. Even if the world collapses and humanity perishes, what's the problem? Do you think my idea is bad? Kaguya asked with interest. If you follow your approach, within a few years, riots will occur one after another all over the world. By then, will you have to exterminate all humans in the world again? Xiao Fan asked angrily. Kaguya rolled his eyes. Why not? After exterminating them, wouldn't it be nice to release some humans and start from scratch? Kaguya didn't care. Then what? Another rebellion breaks out around the world, and then you exterminate them. Xiao Fan curled his lips slightly, feeling helpless. It won't take much time to exterminate them anyway, so why not do it? Kaguya chuckled, not taking this matter to heart at all. But in this case, your actions of destroying the world will become more frequent, and sooner or later, we will no longer have all human samples. When that time comes, how will you deal with yourself? Xiao Fan raised a question. It was a problem that Kaguya simply couldn't ignore. Then you say, how should I treat those human experimental subjects? Kaguya threw the question back to Xiao Fan. It's very simple, just establish a perfect system of routine worship of sacred trees. Xiao Fan already knew about this. We just need to ingrain the idea of routine worship of sacred trees into the hearts of all human beings, and then select suitable candidates according to the relevant regulations, so that we can easily control their life and death. The idea is good, but how are you going to ingrain your routine worship of sacred trees system into everyone's hearts? Kaguya has serious doubts about Xiao Fan's remarks. Attitude. Once they become dissatisfied with the system you have established, there is no doubt that the rebellion will continue. So, as long as the system I formulated is in the interests of the majority of people, then they will automatically send people to the sacred tree for routine worship without me having to do anything. Regarding this, Xiao Fan is full of confidence. Oh, for example, Xiao Fan really whetted Kaguya's appetite now. For example, if criminals who have committed crimes such as burning, killing and looting are sent to the sacred tree for routine worship, I think no one will say anything, right? Xiao Fan said with a chuckle. That's true, but not enough. Kaguya slowly shook her head and said, compared to ordinary people, there are only a few criminals after all, and a small number is not enough to create enough white zetsu. The army comes out. Then, what about sending the old men who are about to die to the sacred tree for routine worship? After a slight hesitation, Xiao Fan made such a cruel suggestion. That's not enough. Kaguya still shook his head. The old man is already full of twilight energy, and their time is running out. They simply cannot provide enough nutrients for the sacred tree. The things I mentioned before are just a few regulations that will definitely appear in the routine enshrinement of sacred trees system. When it is actually formulated, these regulations will not be the only ones. Xiao Fan laughed. Analyze specific problems in detail. We can implement this idea first, and then solve it when problems really arise. Well, this is also a good idea. Wei nodded and agreed with Xiao Fan's point of view. You can try it out first. If it doesn't work, then just destroy the world again. Anyway, it will be destroyed. It doesn't take much time to live a new life. Hearing Kaguya say such terrifying words so nonchalantly, Xiao Fan suddenly felt cold sweat breaking out all over his body. It's over. It's over. It seems that his lovely wife Kaguya will never come back. Continue. Looking at Xiao Fan, who was sitting on pins and needles, Wei faintly spat out these two words. Xiao Fan was a little confused and didn't know what to continue. After all, he had already finished all his previous theories on the routine worship of sacred trees. What? Regarding issues related to dealing with powerful enemies and developing this world, you don't just come up with this set of theories, do you? Do you have any other good ideas? Tell them all. Kaguya has already started. Gradually he became impatient. Oh, yes, of course I don't just have this suggestion. Xiao Fan, who came back to his senses, quickly said with a smile, if we want to increase our strength, in addition to developing our own hard power, we can also embrace everything, learn from other power systems about related energy applications. Other power systems. Kaguya was startled, and then asked with some surprise, do you want to say that it is the power of those toads I saw from your memory? That is the so-called immortal model. Yes, it's Miaomu Mountain where the great toad immortal, Fukusaku immortal and Shima immortal are located. Xiao Fan chuckled and said, of course, in addition to Miaomu Mountain, there are also Ryuji Cave and Shigu Forest. I think we can go to those places to learn first. In short, no matter what the final result is, it will always be beneficial to us without any harm. Kaguya accepted Xiao Fan's suggestion and rescued some humans from the branches of the sacred tree. Then, some people with outstanding talents were selected from the people who were rescued, and formed a group with Xiao Fan as the core. Relevant departments that formulate regulations on routine worship of sacred trees. With the passage of time, the relevant regulations of routine worship of sacred trees became more and more popular among the people. Although there was a certain degree of human rebellion during this period, under Kaguya's strong suppression, overall, it is said that there was no big commotion. When Kaguya completely controlled the fate of all humans in the world, she set her sights on the mysterious creatures living on this land. Among them, the creatures that Kaguya wanted to explore the most were the groups living in Mt. Miaomu, Ryachi Cave, and the Shigi Bone Forest. It's a pity that no matter how much manpower and material resources Kaguya mobilized, he couldn't find them. Even in the end, Kaguya spent a lot of chakra to search the entire world, but he couldn't find any trace of them. It's as if there is no trace of their existence in this world. By the way, is the world in your memory the same time and space as the world we are living in now? Because the search was fruitless, Kaguya finally had doubts about Xiao Fan's memory. Xiao Fan could not give a definite answer to Kaguya's doubts. After all, no one could guarantee that the world he traveled to would be an authentic Naruto world. What if there is no magic in this world? What about the existence of Mu Mountain, Yongji Cave, and Shigu Forest? Under Xiao Fan's efforts and Wie's strong suppression, the routine worship of the sacred tree finally took root in the hearts of all people, although from time to time a few would suddenly pop up from some corner of the world. There are several rebel organizations, but it is a pity that none of them can form much of a climate. In this way, as Xiao Fan and Kaguya complement each other, the world has been controlled by them for 20 years. Although 20 years have passed, the passage of time has not been reflected on Kaguya, Xiao Fan and Ano. They still retain their appearance before the infinite Tsukuyomi. It was another fine morning. As usual, Kaguya leaned in the dimness outside the house and looked at the towering sacred tree in the distance. On the other side of the darkness, Xiao Fan and Ano were staring at Kaguya, who was in a daze. Kaguya looks at that tree every day. What is she looking at? Xiao Fan asked. Ano rode beside him with a complicated expression. Kaguya-sama is unwilling to tell us anything. No one knows what she is thinking in her heart. I think there may be hidden thoughts in her heart that even the two of us cannot fathom. Ano smiled bitterly. So said. After that, there was a long silence between Xiao Fan and IE. However, neither Kaguya nor Xiao Fan nor Ano noticed that in a stream not far from the three of them, a frog was standing in the stream. The three of them are being watched on the reef. What is more miraculous is that there is a dark red rope hanging on the neck of this frog, and the buckle directly in front of the rope is a ball with the word, oil, engraved on it. Lord Emperor, Lord Ano, come with me. At this moment, a burst of anxious shouting suddenly came from the distance. What's wrong, Yori? Ano asked strangely. Xiao Fan had some impression of the woman named Haori, who came in a hurry. If the normal storyline of Naruto was followed, the woman in front of him should be the sweetheart of one of his sons. Then, because Kaguya routinely enshrined it to the sacred tree, this incident became the trigger for her son, who had long been dissatisfied with Kaguya, to turn against her. Therefore, the saying, after marrying a wife and forgetting the mother, still has some basis in fact. At least, if this had not come out, the war between Kaguya and her two sons would have been postponed for a while. While leading Xiao Fan and Ano toward the fields, Yuji briefly described what happened to them. In fact, the matter was very simple. There was a conflict between the people upstream and downstream because of the water source issue, so Yuji hurriedly invited Xiao Fan and Ano out in order to stop the dispute. Your fields have robbed all the water, and the water will not flow to the fields downstream. From a distance, Xiao Fan and Ai saw a sturdy man carrying a slightly older boy. The thin man in the collar roared angrily at him. Don't blame me. The slightly thin man roared feebly. It was obvious that he was a little afraid of the strong man. Stop. Xiao Fan frowned, and in an instant he came directly to the two of them. With a slight stretch of his hand, he pulled the two men apart from each other. What's wrong? What happened? After pulling the two people away, Xiao Fan couldn't help but ask with some doubts. Ah. The slightly thin man sighed lightly and sat down on the ground. What else can I do? This guy stole all the water. The strong man roared angrily. My fields are upstream, this is normal. After seeing Xiao Fan and IE, the slightly thin man became more courageous and immediately retorted. Seeing this familiar plot, Xiao Fan couldn't help but wonder. Could it be that Miaomu Mountain, one of the 3 holy places they had been searching for 20 years but could not find, actually came to them on their own initiative? Xiao Fan suppressed the excitement in his heart and calmed down a little. I remember that before this, the water should have flowed to other fields, right? Ano stopped the strong man who was about to argue, and asked the other slightly thin man with some confusion. That's right, the water flow in the river suddenly became smaller. The slightly thin man immediately told the reason why he took away the water source. So, in order to find out why the water flow suddenly became smaller, the farmers led Xiaofan and Ai to the foot of a mountain. It seems, something must have happened at the source of the water in the deep mountains, right? Ano asserted as he looked at the small stream that had almost dried up. It seems that Miaomu Mountain has really come to our door. At the same moment when Ano made the inference, Xiaofan also made his own judgment in his heart. We also wanted to go upstream and have a look, but there are giant bears in this mountain, and no one dares to enter at will. The sturdy man introduced the situation in this mountain to Xiaofan and Ai. Not long ago, an elderly woman who went into the mountains to pick wild vegetables was seriously injured. Got it. Ano nodded slightly, then turned to look at Xiaofan beside him. Let's go take a look together. Really, that's a big help. The sturdy man immediately thanked him with great joy. Be careful, Lord Emperor, Lord Ano. Yuji, who was standing behind Xiaofan and Ano, whispered with some worry. Don't worry. Ano turned his head and gave Yuji a reassuring look, and then turned his attention again to Xiaofan who was standing aside. Let's go, Lord Emperor. Yes, Xiaofan nodded slightly. Now that he knows that the visitors from Miaomu Mountain waiting for them are there, then there is no reason for him not to go and see them, right? Lord Emperor, can you see anything? In the deep mountains near the source of the water source, Ai asked Xiaofan down nervously. Although due to Kaguya's training over the years, Ano can now be regarded as a super master with a large amount of chakra and proficient in various ninjutsu. However, some of the qualities of an ordinary woman are still not reflected in her. It was completely removed from the body. Facing the depths of such a seemingly dangerous mountain, Ano instinctively felt that an emotion called fear was quietly controlling her body. Xiaofan focused his eyes and soon found some clues. It seems that there is a big rock upstream blocking the flow of water. Xiaofan told Ai what he found. The 2 people who found out the situation continued to move forward, and soon they came to the huge rock blocking the flow of water. It's this stone that blocks the river. But where did this stone come from? I've never seen it before when I came here. Ano looked at the huge stone in front of him with some doubts, murmured. Although Xiaofan already understood what was going on, in order not to make the visitors from Miaomu Mountain who were watching them secretly suspicious, Xiaofan pretended to be suspicious and speculated, falling from the sky. Someone deliberately let it go. Who else can it be? Ano asked confusedly. Besides Kaguya-sama, the only one who can move such a big rock is you, the Emperor. I let him go. As Xiaofan expected, there was already a prisoner who jumped out to take responsibility without him having to answer. Xiaofan and Ai turned around and looked around, but found nothing. Of course, Xiaofan deliberately did not look at the toad on the stone pier beside him. Hey, don't ignore me. The toad on the stone pier shouted impatiently. Xiaofan and Ai turned their heads together and saw the little toad squatting on the stone pier. But I'm not a bug, I'm a frog. Toad continued calmly. Xiaofan glanced at the numerous knots on its body and did not answer. Although frogs and toads belong to different subjects in this world, these toads belonging to Miaomu Mountain generally calls himself frog. Hey, is there something wrong with my brain? Why are the frogs telling cold jokes? Ai stared at Xiaofan in surprise and asked at a loss. If there is really something wrong with your brain, then there must be something wrong with my brain too. Xiaofan said with a pretending to be humorous and shrugged. There is nothing wrong with your brains, I am indeed talking. Toad stretched out his right limb and pointed at Xiaofan and Ai, then hugged his limbs and continued in a pretentious tone, no, it's my cold joke. You guys didn't laugh, maybe there's something really wrong about this. Ano still didn't believe that toads could talk. When she glanced around the surrounding scenery again, Ano still couldn't believe what she heard and saw. No one is hiding nearby. It doesn't look like ventriloquism. As far as humans are concerned, you are too cautious. Toad sighed helplessly. You're such a self-righteous frog. Ano retorted with some hesitation. You just don't know, but we frogs have lived here since a long, long time ago. Toad said with some arrogance. Everyone will be happy if you catch the talking frog. Ano glanced at the toad teasingly and said this deliberately in front of it. Stupid, it's surprising that you can catch me with your ability. The toad roared in a very angry voice. You are a small frog, but you have a big mouth. Ano chuckled, obviously not believing the toad's boast. Looks like another guest is here. At this moment, the toad suddenly changed the topic. When they heard Toad say this, Xiaofan and Ai also felt something bad behind them, and immediately turned around. I saw that, at some point, a huge black bear had been standing not far from the two of them. When the black bear saw that Xiaofan and Ai had discovered it, it beat its chest and roared without any scruples. What a big bear, Ano exclaimed, but there was no hint of fear on her face. What she was afraid of was those unknown creatures. As for this big bear, she really didn't take it seriously. Just in time, let me show off my power. The toad behind Xiaofan and Ai spoke at this time. I saw that the toad had puffed up its cheeks. Looking from a distance, each of the expanded cheeks was actually no smaller than its head. Puff! The toad opened its mouth, and saw a surging water column hitting the oncoming black bear. Almost without any resistance, the big black bear was knocked backwards by the water column from the toad's mouth. And along with it, he smashed down a huge rock in the distance. After the stunned big black bear came to its senses, the first thing it did was to turn around and run away. After the black bear left, Toad continued, I put this rock to lure you here. My name is Toadmaru. You two are the Tianzi and Ano, right? Being called by a frog's name. Ano complained helplessly. You two come with me. After Gamamaru said this, without waiting for Xiaofan and Ano to reply, he turned around and jumped into the distance. Xiaofan and Ano looked at each other, then followed Gamamaru helplessly and curiously. Oh, I forgot about this. Suddenly, Ano seemed to remember something, turned around suddenly, and then formed a seal with his hands. Ziwu Shen Wu Mao Thunder released Chidori. Shish, shish. Ai's palms were filled with lightning, and the sound of electric current was like the chirping of 1,000 birds. When this huge current energy was compressed and condensed at one point, Ai rushed forward brazenly towards the huge boulder blocking the water flow. Boom! Under the laser light in Ano's hand, the huge boulder was like a piece of tofu dregs and was directly smashed into pieces by her. Oh, Gamamaru in the distance couldn't help but chuckled, a couple of times. After saying that, he turned around and continued to jump forward. Xiaofan and Ano followed closely behind Tomomaru, and then they were a little surprised to find that Tomomaru actually brought them to the small soil slope near the outside of the sacred tree. Of course, Xiaofan had already seen this. It was expected, but the surprise on the face still needs to be faked. Why did you bring us here? Ano asked Gamamaru with some confusion. Do you know that? Gamamaru asked without answering Ano's question, but stretched out his right limb and pointed at the sacred tree in front of him. Of course. Ano nodded and replied, that's the pass of the end. Have you seen the other side of the ridge? Gamamaru continued to ask. I've seen it. I've seen it. Xiaofan and Ai answered in unison. Quote. Suddenly, Gamamaru didn't know what to say next. After calming down, Gamamaru asked again with some uncertainty, have you seen him before? Correct. Xiaofan and Ai nodded calmly. Didn't Kaguya not let people approach that ridge? Aren't all of you obliged to abide by this agreement? Gamamaru was still a little unbelievable. He suddenly felt that he had rashly come to see these two people today. It is very likely not a wise choice. That's true, but it doesn't include the two of us. Ano said in a matter-of-fact tone. Then, you all know the true form of the sacred tree. Gamamaru's expression has completely calmed down, and there is still a trace of uncontrollable anger. Of course I know, after all, we were the witnesses of all this back then. Ano chuckled, as if he didn't realize the sudden change in Gamamaru's expression. Then do you two know that the sacred tree is constantly absorbing the power of the earth? As long as it is there, this land will become weaker and weaker. Gamamaru's words were mixed with an inexplicable sense of resentment. I know. Ano still expressed his knowledge of this. Then, goodbye, excuse me. With that said, Gamamaru turned around and jumped into the stream nearby. Now that you're here, let's stay. At the same time, a cold voice sounded indifferently from above the land. When this sound sounded, Todemaru jumped towards the stream even faster. But, what's the use? I saw a tall beautiful figure suddenly appear behind Gamamaru, and then, she gently leaned over and picked it up directly in her hand. Let me go. Let me go. Gamamaru struggled desperately, trying to get out of the control of the woman who suddenly appeared, but this was destined to be impossible for him. The woman who suddenly appeared and captured Gamamaru was none other than Kaguya. You liars, the reason why you have been arguing with me for so long is to wait for her arrival, right? Gamamaru, who had already figured out the cause and effect, immediately cast his resentful eyes on Xiao Fan and Ano. This can only show that you are stupid. Xiao Fan shrugged slightly, not taking it seriously. You clearly know that our relationship with Kaguya is not ordinary, but you still dare to try to seduce and convince us. It's really, I don't even know how to evaluate you. I'm so mad at Frog. I'm so mad at Frog. Gamamaru was despairing. He felt that the world was full of malice toward him. According to the scattered records on the Memory Stone, and the revelations it received, Gamamaru believed that Xiao Fan and Ano were the children of destiny it was looking for, but who knew the truth was like this? The cruelty, it was arrested. Why is this happening? In which link is there a problem? Gamamaru asked himself, but he couldn't get the answer he wanted. Toads rarely dream, but when they do, the dreams are close to prophecies. It was precisely because Todemaru dreamed of Xiao Fan and Ano destroying the sacred tree that it boldly wanted to try to communicate with them. The two of them came into contact, but who knew it would end like this? Could it be that the dreams of toads are sometimes inaccurate? Todemaru murmured in his heart with some distress. He couldn't believe that it was himself who trapped him into such a desperate situation. A dream. Don't worry, as long as we can get what we want, we won't hurt your life. Xiao Fan saw Gamamaru's depression, and in order to make him cooperate obediently, he comforted him in a gentle tone. What do you want? Gamamaru was a little confused. I don't understand, what is there in my place that is worth your fighting? Especially Kaguya, her power is extremely powerful, and she is the leader of this world. As the actual controller, I really don't know, is there anything in me that is worthy of your concern? Shanli, Xiao Fan said with a chuckle, Toad Pill, can you teach us how to use Shanli? Shanli. This time, Gamamaru's expression became completely silent. How did you know about the existence of Shanli? It's not important how we know. What's important is, are you willing to teach us? Xiao Fan stared at Todemaru, which was clamped in Kaguya's hand, and asked seriously. It's easy to talk to the other little girl, but... Gamamaru tilted his neck slightly and looked at Kaguya with hesitation. If she has strong power and learns to use fairy power, what will happen? It is simply unimaginable. If she wants to destroy the world, who can really stop her? Destroy the world. We've already destroyed it once. Are you still afraid that I won't destroy it a second time? Kaguya finally said calmly, don't worry, as long as this world doesn't disobey me, I won't be idle. You just have nothing to do to destroy it. Gamamaru didn't have the slightest trust in Kaguya's words that were not a guarantee. Then what do you want to teach us how to use immortal power? Although he already knew the answer, Xiao Fan still asked with interest. It's very simple. As long as the sacred tree does not appear on this land, then I don't mind teaching you how to use the immortal power. The request made by Todemaru was exactly the same as what Xiao Fan had imagined. You can change it to another one. Xiao Fan sighed lightly. The reason why we worship the sacred tree routinely is to create enough troops and to prevent crises that may suddenly strike at any time. So, at this point, it is impossible for us to give in. Then we have nothing to talk about. Gamamaru, who was a bachelor, said nonchalantly, I only have this request, other than that. I have nothing else. If you don't teach us immortal power, then I don't mind having a delicious frog feast tonight. Kaguya's indifferent and serious voice echoed in this world, and there was an indescribable feeling. The determination and certainty are contained in the words. If you want to kill or behead me, it's up to you. Anyway, I only have this one request, and the rest, are not within my scope of consideration. Gamamaru was very stubborn, even though he knew that he might really become someone else's. It has food in its mouth, but it has no intention of compromising at all. It still refuses to let go and take a step back. Then take it back and make soup. Kaguya smiled coldly. Taste your flesh and blood, and experience the taste of meat moistened by immortal power. I believe that after devouring your entire body, I will definitely learn the immortal power that you cherish so much. HMPH, then you really need to give it a good test. After eating my vagina, will you be able to learn the magical power I have? Gamamaru was not timid at all, and responded calmly. Seeing that the atmosphere was gradually becoming stiff and almost no room for maneuver, Ano suddenly spoke out to persuade. You guys calm down first, actually. I have an idea here. I don't know, you guys, do you want to listen first? Then make a decision. Say, Kaguya has always loved Ano. Whether before or after swallowing the fruit of the sacred tree, Ano has always been Kaguya's confidant. Kaguya softened her tone because of Ano. Gamamaru would not pick trouble anymore. After all, it is better to die than to live. If possible, it would not want to die, and it would be humiliating. Die as food. After listening to your previous conversation, we might as well sort out the general context first. Can we? Ano made a cautious request. Okay. Kaguya nodded slightly, and Gamamaru didn't have the slightest objection. The Son of Heaven just said that the routine worship of the sacred tree is actually to create an army to deal with crises that may suddenly strike in the future. I wonder if this is the case. Ai turned his attention to Xiao Fan and asked, Road. That's right. Xiao Fan nodded. The reason why Kaguya and I didn't tell you about this is because we didn't want you to worry about it, so don't be surprised. I understand the painstaking efforts of Master Kaguya and Master Tianzi, and I will not make random assumptions because of this. Ano nodded gently to express his understanding. Immediately afterwards, Ano turned his attention to Gamamaru again. As for the use of immortal power, you are actually not very proud of it, but the reason why you are unwilling to teach us is actually just because you are afraid that Kaguya-sama will lose his response because of it. The restrictive power, coupled with the fact that Master Kaguya controls the sacred tree to absorb the energy contained in this land without limit, you are even more unwilling to teach us the power of immortality. I wonder if what I said is right. Quote. That's right. Gamamaru nodded in agreement. The divine tree is the most evil and evil existence in the world, and the person who controls her is an incredibly powerful person. Therefore, the divine tree cannot accept, no matter what, I won't teach the immortal power to the person who controls the sacred tree. Snapped. Ano clapped her little hand lightly, and said with an inexplicable smile, if you ask me, the things that Kaguya-sama and Gamamaru care about are actually the same. In the final analysis, it is just a matter of power trade-offs. It's just a disagreement. Seeing that no one seemed to understand, Ano had no choice but to explain again. Kaguya-sama wants to possess the sacred tree and immortal power in order to improve his own strength, but now, although the sacred tree is in the hands of Kaguya-sama, but the immortal power is in the hands of Gamamaru. Now, Gamamaru wants Master Kaguya to destroy the sacred tree before he is willing to teach her the immortal power, and there is no room for change in it. So, a little integration. If we convert the concepts, doesn't it become a question of whether Kaguya-sama should choose the sacred tree or the immortal power? Hearing Ano's reasoning and analogy of operating as fiercely as a tiger, Xiao Fan was a little shocked to find that it seemed quite reasonable. And more importantly, whether Ano did it intentionally or not, when converting concepts, she actually changed Gamamaru's. The sacred tree will not appear on this land. To destroy the sacred tree, the inherent gap between the two is so huge that it can make Gamamaru doubt his life. So, Master Kaguya, do you want the sacred tree or the immortal power? Ano threw this newly emerged question back to Kaguya, who had full power to decide the matter. At this time, Ano and Gamamaru's eyes were all focused on Kaguya, waiting for her to make the final decision. As for Xiao Fan, when he heard Ano simplify the problem to this extent, he already knew Kaguya's choice. No matter how much they think about it, Ano and Gamamaru probably would never have thought that in addition to being the source of evil and a collection of chakra that absorbs the energy of the earth, the sacred tree is also Kaguya's own power. In other words, the sacred tree is Kaguya, but Kaguya is not the sacred tree. No matter how the sacred tree is cut down and attacked, even if it is wiped out, as long as Kaguya still exists in the world, as long as Kaguya is willing, then the sacred tree will be reborn. If the conditions put forward by Gamamaru at the beginning are followed, the sacred tree will not appear on this land, then Kaguya may really feel a little embarrassed, but as for the current, destroying the sacred tree. Kaguya said he had no pressure. Just as Xiao Fan understands Wei Yi, Wei Yi also understands Xiao Fan very well. Wei Yi's eyes turned slightly, and after lightly glancing at Xiao Fan, the two of them had reached the point at the same time. The consensus of concealing the truth. In that case, I choose Shanli. Kaguya's eyes fell on Gamamaru again, and he gave his choice calmly. Is that so? After Gamamaru heard Kaguya's choice with his own ears, he still felt like he was in a dream. No matter how he thought about it, it felt unreal. Are you sure? Kaguya nodded slightly, not even bothering to answer Gamamaru's question. Then, let's cut down the sacred tree first. Todemaru, who still felt that it was very unrealistic, asked tentatively. Okay. Kaguya glanced at Gamamaru with an unclear meaning and replied. With Kaguya's approval and guidance, Xiaofan and Ano worked together to destroy the sacred tree. As for the humans who were bound by the sacred tree, except for some who had died, all the rest were restored. Salvation. Next, it's time for Gamamaru to fulfill his promise. Tomamaru was straightforward and led Kaguya, Xiaofan and Ano to a river without saying a word. Follow me. Todemaru looked back and looked around Xiaofan and others, then turned around and jumped into the river. Puff, puff, puff. Kaguya, Xiaofan and Ano immediately followed behind Gamamaru without any hesitation and jumped into the river with it. When they emerged from the water again, they were surprised to find that they had arrived at a strange land they had never seen before. Where is this place? Ano, who was still in a state of confusion, first asked Gamamaru. This is the country of toads. Gamamaru replied to Ano. Here, I always feel an incredible power. Kaguya felt the surrounding environment carefully, and then sighed with some surprise. Oh, as expected of Kaguya, it's really not that simple. Gamamaru was also very surprised by Kaguya's perception ability. You can actually sense the special power surging here. It's really powerful. I'm so scared, to be honest. After you learn the power of immortality, I can't even imagine how powerful you can be. After sighing, Gamamaru began to introduce this place. This place is filled with a kind of natural energy called celestial power, so as long as you use this power, even if you are as thin as me, you can do all kinds of things. Unbelievable things come out. As he spoke, Gamamaru easily lifted a huge and thick stone statue with one arm. Awesome! Ano exclaimed in surprise. She really didn't expect that Todemaru, which looked about the same size as an ordinary toad, could actually do something to this extent. It was simply unimaginable. Bam! Todemaru threw the huge stone statue aside casually. Follow me. Todemaru continued to invite Xiaofan and his party to go deeper inside. Soon, everyone entered a hall. Gamamaru jumped up the steps in the hall, then turned around and introduced to everyone the huge spherical object on the top of the steps. This stone is called the Memory Stone, which records everything that happens on Earth. Everything. Ano couldn't help but sigh again. Well, actually, during the time before Kaguya came to the country of the ancestors, this stone did faithfully perform its functions, but when Kaguya came to this world, especially Kaguya accepted it, after the memory of Tianzi, I found that for some reason, this stone sometimes couldn't spy on Kaguya's surroundings. I guess, Kaguya must have done something, right? Gamamaru was a little tentative. He mentioned this in a way. Xiaofan and Kaguya chose to ignore Tomamaru's exploration. Since Kaguya received Xiaofan's memory, she has known the existence of the Memory Stone. Therefore, on weekdays, if there is anything hidden that is not convenient for others to know, Kaguya will usually use it. Some methods were used to completely cover herself, so that the Memory Stone would not be able to expose her nakedness. Gamamaru had already expected Xiaofan and Kaguya's attitude, so after shrugging, he chose to skip the topic first. At this time, on the stone body of this Memory Stone, the relevant events that happened after Kaguya came to the world were being played, from when Xiaofan met Kaguya to when Xiaofan brought her back to the palace. Inside, from Xiaofan's battle against that country to facing the coalition forces of various countries, from Kaguya's life in the country of her ancestors to Kaguya's infinite Tsukuyomi on the world. Everything seems like yesterday. Actually, I have always been curious, where are you from? And why do you want to protect the sacred tree? Gamamaru looked at Kaguya deeply and asked. The sacred tree has been destroyed, so how can we protect it? As for where I came from, I'm just a lonely ghost, so why bother to get to the bottom of it? Kaguya's face was neither happy nor sad, as if it's common to say something unworthy of praise. However, when Xiaofan saw Kaguya's expression, for some reason, a burst of heart-wrenching sorrow surged in his heart. Unable to bear it, he took a step forward, grabbed Kaguya's jade hand, and wanted to give them warmth and spiritual support. Kaguya glanced back at Xiaofan in surprise. Perhaps seeing the barely concealed heartache in Xiaofan's eyes, Kaguya acquiesced to Xiaofan's wanton behavior. Don't think it's too much for me to ask you to destroy the sacred tree. Perhaps, for you, that tree has extraordinary significance, but since it took root, the natural energy of the earth has been significantly reduced. If things go on like this, not only the earth, but also human beings, as long as that big tree exists, the earth will eventually wither, and we will also enter the same fate. By then, besides you, maybe even your lover and all the maids will suffer disaster. This is definitely not alarmist. Gamamaru felt that it was necessary to inform Kaguya of the reason why he insisted on destroying the sacred tree, so as not to seem like he was bullying the little girl. Although, Gamamaru is not sure who will live older compared to Kaguya. Kaguya, Xiaofan and Aino were sitting next to a pool of oil spitting, toad oil, listening to Toadmaru's careful teachings. Don't think about anything, feel the natural energy and take it into your body. Gamamaru's voice sounded softly in the ears of Kaguya and others. Scene switching, only a square wooden board was placed on a tapered cylinder, while Kaguya was sitting on the wooden board steadily, with clusters of natural energy visible to the naked eye. The clarity was absorbed into his body. I really didn't expect that Kaguya could completely master the power of immortality in the blink of an eye. Now, I have begun to regret teaching her the power of immortality. At this time, Gamamaru stared in shock. His eyes widened, and such thoughts could not help but flow out of his mind. However, now that things have progressed to the current point, it is no longer possible for it to regret and stop. Ever since Kaguya cultivated immortal power, Xiaofan's daily life has changed. That is to encourage Kaguya to transform into immortal mode, so that he can admire her. Kaguya knew very well about Xiaofan's bad intentions, so she firmly rejected Xiaofan's unreasonable request. Sometimes, when Kaguya gets tired of being pestered by Xiaofan, she will also give Xiaofan some lessons in martial arts. Although it won't be serious, it can still make him taste the pain of being beaten. However, would the shameless Xiaofan care about this? When did you not continue teasing after the pain was over? Aino and Tomomaru both looked down upon Xiaofan's various behaviors, but when they saw Xiaofan's tenacious attitude of never getting tired of doing it, they gave up the idea of persuading him. Kaguya and Xiaofan, one is willing to fight and the other is willing to suffer, but they get along quite harmoniously. Time passed slowly in this way, while fighting and practicing. When Xiaofan and Ai both learned the power of immortality, they finally planned to leave here. The world is so big and they want to go out and see it. Thank you, Tomomaru. Aino followed Kaguya and Xiaofan, suddenly turned around, and waved goodbye to Tomomaru, who was watching them leave. Are you going to leave no matter what? After all, they had been together for some time. Facing Xiaofan and others who were about to leave, Gamamaru still felt a little sad. There are some things we must do. Xiaofan, who was already drifting away, finally stopped and said such a sentence after hearing Gamamaru's words. What are you going to do? Gamamaru suddenly felt a panic in his heart. If these three people who have mastered the immortal power are going to cause something in this world, who else will be able to check and balance them? Don't be nervous, Xiaofan said with a chuckle. Don't worry, I'm waiting for this trip just to push this world back to the track it should develop. After all, if it's because of the few of us, because of the relationship, those influential figures who were supposed to be born into this world have lost their presence, which is really a great regret. Although Tomomaru did not understand Xiao Fan's words, it could feel from Xiao Fan's tone that the three of them did not seem to be going to cause sabotage on this trip. As long as they knew this, then that's enough. As for the other things, even if it wants to worry about it, I'm afraid it doesn't have the ability. Master Tianzi, Master Kaguya, where are we going next? After leaving the country of toads, Aino felt more and more that the path their group was taking did not look like they were going back to their ancestral country. Couldn't help it, Aino asked the doubts in his heart. Didn't I say it before? We want this world to return to the track it should develop. Xiao Fan replied with a chuckle. Then, Xiao Fan saw that at this time, Wie's face had completely turned gloomy. Xiao Fan was stunned for a moment, and instantly understood why she was angry. When I say returning the world to the path it should develop, I don't mean to seal you away. I just think that I finally came to this world. No matter what, I have to go through the ninja era, the plot, right? I'm so inexplicably invincible. It's so boring to say. Xiao Fan explained to Kaguya with a smile. Why are you telling me these things? Besides, it's me who is invincible, so what does it have to do with you? Wie looked like she had no idea what Xiao Fan was talking about, but the tips of her slightly red ears were. It completely exposed her state of mind at this time. What's the difference between you being invincible and me being invincible? Xiao Fan laughed. In order to prevent Kaguya from becoming angry, he decided to quickly change the topic. By the way, we still need to replant the sacred tree now. Really, maybe, we can give this world another, infinite Tsukiyomi. Kaguya calmed down her mind slightly, and after contemplating for a while, she finally shook her head slowly. Since you have said it, you must push the world back to the track it should develop. Then, it is obvious that the sacred tree is not suitable to come back to the world at this time. In addition, we promised that little toad. Now we have just learned its magical power and are crossing the river to destroy the bridge. Replanting the sacred tree. I can't do such a shameless thing. The sacred tree is your power. It absorbs the energy of this world, but it actually enhances your strength. Now, do you really want to give up this shortcut to enhance your strength? Xiao Fan said to Kaguya. Giving up felt incredible. Didn't you say that you want to put the world back on its established track? What I am doing now is helping you realize your ideal. Why don't you want to go to the ninja era that you dream of? Wie glanced sideways at Xiao Fan and said indifferently with some teasing. I admit, I really want to experience the original ninja era, but compared with you, those are all a pile of rubbish. In this world, nothing can even better than you. Xiao Fan stared at Kaguya affectionately. If your strength is greatly reduced because of me, then I will really be blamed for your death. Hearing Xiao Fan's words, Kaguya suddenly realized that unknowingly, a sweet feeling had already quietly surged in her heart. It was so good to have his concern. Don't worry, after I learned the immortal power, the power obtained by the sacred tree from absorbing the earth has long been dispensable to me. Kaguya's voice was unconsciously mixed with a hint of Roro said, now, to what level my strength has risen to, even I can't tell clearly. I only know that the strength I have now is completely different from the strength I had before. Regardless of no matter how much energy the sacred tree absorbs in this world, it can't make me strong enough to reach this level. So, that is to say, what you have always been worried about, those guys who will come to this world to threaten your safety at some time, are no longer a worry. Xiao Fan asked Kaguya happily. If nothing else, it's true. Kaguya nodded slightly. The huge stone that had been oppressing her heart for a long time was finally completely removed after she learned the power of immortality. Kaguya, Xiao Fan and Aino walked aimlessly on this land, appreciating the unique charms of various parts of the world. It has to be said that human beings are really a highly adaptable group. When they were rescued from the sacred tree, most of them were confused, but as time went by, they have completely adapted to today's life. The entire human group is continuing to develop and grow in a prosperous direction. Master Tianzi, Master Kaguya, since you always say that you want to get this world back on the track it should develop, then, what exactly do you want to do? You can't just keep wandering like this, right? Quote. You should ask your emperor about this kind of thing. Anyway, this is the slogan he has been shouting. It has nothing to do with me. At most, I am just a little boy who follows behind him. It's just Ma Zi. Kaguya made a rare joke about Xiao Fan. Therefore, Ai focused his attention on Xiao Fan again. Since we want to bring the world back to its established track, then I feel that the ninja sect is absolutely indispensable. Xiao Fan said firmly. Since you want to bring out a ninja, is it possible that you also want to bring out Hagoromo and Hamura? Let's make it clear first, if you don't take back your own body, I won't have a child with you. Wei, who was afraid that Xiao Fan would make any excessive demands, pretended to be vaccinated. Don't worry, I won't make such a rude request. Xiao Fan chuckled, but no matter how you looked at it, there was a hint of bitterness in his smile. I have lived in this world for more than 20 years. If the flow rate of this world is the same as that of my original world, then, in other words, more than 20 years have passed in my original world. After more than 20 years, I am afraid that the body that lost its soul has already been sent to the crematorium, right? Even if the body in his previous life luckily became a vegetative state, and was not cremated, but such a long time has passed, even if he can return to that world again, can his body still be used? It's still the same problem. Xiao Fan said that even if it was his own body, if there was something really missing, he would not want to return to that body. With Xiao Fan's current appearance, how could Kaguya not understand what he was thinking? Don't worry, if you really go through a lot of changes after you go back, then I don't mind helping you reshape a body, or I'll help you now. Kaguya's tone was filled with a hint of faintness, eager to try. Xiao Fan thought about it for a while, and finally shook his head and rejected Kaguya's proposal. No need for now. There is nothing wrong with me using this body now. I will make a decision after I can return to that world. Besides, creating something out of thin air coming out with a body that suits me is also a waste for you, so there's no need to waste it like that. The woman's face was like the unpredictable weather, which could change at any time. Xiao Fan didn't understand that he was having a good chat with Wei Yi just now, but who knew that, for some reason, she suddenly turned her face away. He looked at it, which made Xiao Fan say that Monk Zhong was confused. Can I ask a question? Ano, who had been listening to the two of them in confusion, spoke weakly. If you have any questions, just ask. Regarding Ano, Kaguya's expression immediately changed again. Although it was difficult to tell the truth from his indifferent face, Xiao Fan, who was very familiar with him, however, Ano knew that Kaguya at this time was definitely a gentle and approachable big sister. Well, what you just said, Lord Emperor took back his body, what happened? Although Ano didn't want to question the two people in front of her, since this matter was brought to her attention, if she heard it, then she could never treat it as if it never happened. Oops. At this time, in the minds of Xiao Fan and Kaguya, these two words emerged involuntarily at the same time. Ano, this silly girl, doesn't know that this emperor is no longer the other emperor. Because we are already very familiar with each other, no matter what we say on weekdays, we will not deliberately avoid taboos. But who would have thought that this habit would turn Xiao Fan's biggest enemy in front of Yi? The secret was exposed. Is it that the emperor in front of me is actually not the real emperor? Ano looked at the two people she trusted most with tearful eyes. Please, tell me. Tell me, okay. Facing Ano's questioning, both Xiao Fan and Kaguya looked helpless. This time, they really miscalculated. If I am really not the emperor, what do you want? Xiao Fan asked with some anxiety. To be honest, Kaguya, Ano and Xiao Fan have been living together for more than 20 years. Although Ano's identity has always been nominally just the maid of Kaguya and Xiao Fan, she and Kaguya have never treated her as a maid, especially Kaguya. In her heart, Ano is her sister. Even Xiao Fan's status in Kaguya's heart is not the same. I can definitely compare with Ano. Now that Ano knows Xiao Fan's secret, it is very likely that Ano, who is loyal to the royal family, will break with the two of them. By then, will Kaguya help Ano regain the body of Zhu Tianzi? It is a matter worth considering whether to keep Xiao Fan alive. If you are not him, then, please get out of the body of Lord Tianzi. Lord Tianzi's body is not something that cats and dogs can steal and occupy at will. Ano's eyes flashed with dazzling light. Xiao Fan knew that she was going to be serious this time. Sorry. Xiao Fan was silent for a while, but finally couldn't bear to lie to him. I am indeed not the emperor you knew at the beginning. No. No. Then, where is the original, Tianzi? Where is he? Ano asked in a trembling voice, tears soaking her eyes. Sorry, I don't know. Xiao Fan said with a somewhat apologetic smile, he really didn't know anything. Anyway, when he woke up, he had already replaced Zhu Tianzi's body. However, what Xiao Fan never expected was that Ano's feelings for the Emperor seemed to be more intense than he originally thought. Now, things became a little tricky. Involuntarily, Xiao Fan turned his attention to Kaguya, who was standing aside. As he expected, in Kaguya's heart, Ano was indeed more important than Xiao Fan, because, at this time, Kaguya's entire life all her mind has been put on Ai. As for Xiao Fan, she didn't even give him a look. Chapter 61. Ano, who first heard the bad news, finally burst out completely after being stunned for a long time. Sage mode. Ano is in his strongest state as soon as he takes action. Then, Ano quickly formed the seal with his hands. Ziwu Shen Wu Mao Thunder release Chidori. Shish, I saw lightning bursting from Ano's palm, and strong electric currents intertwined with each other, making a harsh sound like 1,000 birds neighing at the same time. When Ai compressed and concentrated this powerful energy on one point, she rushed towards Xiao Fan brazenly, without any regard for the friendship in the past. This is the body of your beloved Emperor. Are you really willing to break him like this? Xiao Fan chuckled. With just this sentence, Ai Yi, who was in an explosive state, stopped his hands and feet. I don't dare to act rashly anymore. You are despicable. Ano glared at Xiao Fan fiercely and roared with unusual anger. Xiao Fan shrugged slightly, and said sadly and speechlessly, I really don't understand, we have been friends for more than 20 years, how could it be that we can't compare to someone who has never even spoken to you? What a thing. I don't allow you to insult Lord, Emperor. Ano opened her hands angrily, wanting to slap him directly. However, when she considered that Xiao Fan's body belonged to Lord, Emperor, finally, he held back his right palm that was about to come out. Okay, I won't insult. Xiao Fan raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. However, although I do possess this body now, judging from the whole thing, I am actually equivalent to a victim. Looking at Xiao Fan's slightly aggrieved and innocent expression, Ano was filled with hatred. Suddenly, she turned around and looked at Kaguya, who was watching the fun. Master Kaguya, I want to let me ask you, do you know that Lord, Emperor, has changed into a different person inside? I know. Kaguya nodded slightly. I knew it when I saw him for the first time. Then why do you still tolerate him staying in this body? Ano obviously couldn't understand Kaguya's indifferent attitude, and screamed at Kaguya. This is the first time Ano has treated Kaguya with this attitude. Looking at Ano's lustful eyes, Xiao Fan suddenly felt a little unhappy. Kaguya is his wife, when will it be your turn for Ano to yell at her? However, Xiao Fan also understood the position of Ano in Kaguya's heart. Therefore, after thinking about it for a while, Xiao Fan felt that he had to do something for Kaguya, at least, he had to give love to Kaguya. Only if Yi's firepower is transferred from Kaguya's side to himself. After all, no matter what, the initiator of this matter was Xiao Fan. He didn't want Kaguya to take the blame for him and bear the insult of being scolded by Ano, his wife. Except for him, no one else could scold him. No one can do it, even Ano. Of course, whether Xiao Fan is willing to scold him or not is another matter. So, when Ano and Kaguya stared at each other, Xiao Fan said in a very aggrieved tone, actually, I really don't know how I became the Emperor. After sleeping at home, when I woke up, I became the Emperor of my ancestral country. If possible, I actually don't want to be this guy. After all, compared to my previous life, when the period when I was Emperor Zhu was really a tough time for me. Ano seemed unaware of Xiao Fan's words. Her eyes were still focused on Kaguya. In doing this, have you ever considered the feelings of the Emperor? If he is still alive, if he knew that you were treating him with such a cold attitude, how cold would he be? His feelings. Kaguya felt very confused. Why should I care about his feelings? Whether he is alive or dead, what does it have to do with me? You. Ano pointed at Kaguya angrily, and for a moment, he was speechless. Seeing that Ano's intense emotion staring at Kaguya has not eased at all, and even seems to be spreading further, Xiao Fan can only continue to talk, trying to divert Ano's attention. Not long after I became the emperor of the ancestor, I encountered the problem of the water source dispute between the country of my ancestor and the other country. Then, under their aggressiveness, I had to fight with them. Then, inexplicably, my ancestor's country was in dispute. The country was collectively missed by all the surrounding countries. After that, Kaguya used the infinite Tsukuyomi. The only gain from my journey that I don't know why was that I met Kaguya. As for other things, there really is nothing worth worrying about. Wait, suddenly, Ano, who had been playing with Kaguya's eyes just now, turned his head in disbelief, and asked Xiao Fan in a surprised voice, "What did you just say?" Xiao Fan was startled and muttered to himself in confusion, "I said there is nothing worth worrying about." That's not the case. Ano shook his head, but the light in his eyes became even more intense. Then, the only gain is meeting Kaguya? Xiao Fan asked tentatively. That's not the case. At this time, Ano's face had a hint of urgency. I just said too much, I really can't remember what I said. Xiao Fan suggested helplessly, how about, you give me a reminder? Ano worked hard to calm down the chaotic emotions in her heart. After she completely calmed down, she finally asked a crucial question. When did you take over this body? When? Xiao Fan was slightly dazed. He did not expect that Yi would ask such a question. That's right, when did you become the emperor? There was an indescribable seriousness and persistence in Ano's expression, and there was also a trace of obvious nervousness in it. Didn't I say it before? From the time when the ancestral country and the other country fought with each other because of water sources, I was already the ancestral emperor. Xiao Fan felt a little uncomfortable with Yi's question. Answer, but because he was so anxious, Xiao Fan quickly gave him the answer. Then, did you become the emperor before Lord Kaguya moved into the palace? At this time, Ano's brows were already filled with a touch of uncontrollable surprise. The misunderstanding between Ano, Xiao Fan, and Kaguya was thus resolved. This matter was actually a misunderstanding from the beginning. Previously, the reason why Ano was so indignant and furious was not because she was very loyal to the original Emperor Zhu. In fact, for her, from the beginning to the end, what she swore allegiance to was only the time travel. It's just Xiao Fan who came here. The reason why such an physically, therefore, out of anger, she did something that was obviously very different from her usual temperament. According to Ano herself, although she had been living as a maid in the royal palace of the country of her ancestors, she actually had not much interaction with the emperor of her ancestors. After all, one was a high-ranking emperor, while the other was a maid with a low status in the palace. It is impossible for there to be too much feeling between the two. When Ano truly recognized herself as a member of the imperial palace, it was after she was transferred to Kaguya. Therefore, as long as Xiao Fan traveled through the past before she accompanied Kaguya, then for Ano, Xiao Fan is the emperor whom she recognizes. After the misunderstanding was resolved, everyone buried the hatchet and embarked on a journey around the world together again. By the way, you seem to have said that you wanted to create a ninja sect before, but there is no Hagoromo now. How are you going to create a six-path sage? Kaguya endured it for a long time, and finally it was the question she was most curious about. If there is no six-path sage, then I will be the six-path sage. If there is no ninja sect, then I will create a ninja sect. Anyway, I will never let these names disappear from this world. Xiao Fan said with a very high-spirited smile. Regarding Xiao Fan's whimsical, novel idea, Kaguya was speechless and choked, and had no choice but to let him mess around. Anyway, for her, time has long been meaningless. Since he wants to play, then that's all she needs to stay with him. Lord Kaguya, Ano, who had been silent since the last misunderstanding, suddenly came to Kaguya quietly and called out softly, very worriedly. Kaguya looked like she was listening. Please don't take it to heart about what happened before. Ano whispered softly. Suddenly, he didn't know what to say. I understand, you are just worried about him. Kaguya chuckled softly, not feeling embarrassed. That's not what I want to say. Ano shook his head and stared at Kaguya with some worry. I want to say, don't get me wrong, I have nothing to do with the Emperor, so. I know. Kaguya spoke softly, interrupting the somewhat flustered Ano, don't take this matter to your heart. I hope that we can live happily together as before. Facing such a kind Kaguya, Ano couldn't help but feel moved. He sniffed and wiped the moisture from the corners of his eyes. Suddenly, Ano looked at him teasingly with a teasing smile. Kaguya, by the way, Master Kaguya, what exactly do you think? Why, have you deliberately adopted a cold attitude over the years to make the Emperor misunderstand you? On purpose. It's just a matter of character. Kaguya would never admit her little thoughts in front of Ano. Perhaps, after you first swallowed the fruit of the sacred tree, it did have an impact on your character to a certain extent. However, don't try to hide it from me. In fact, you will have fully recovered not long after. Come here, Ano said with a smile, but what makes me feel a little incredible is that even though you have recovered, in front of him, you still have not recovered your original temperament, and you still have such a cold attitude. Facing Lord Emperor, I really can't figure it out. You are thinking too much. Kaguya interrupted Ano's words decisively. The fruit of the sacred tree does not have the ability to affect temperament as you said. As for my attitude towards him, I have not. Are they all indifferent to him? Has there ever been any other change? How should I put it? Maybe there is not much difference on the surface, but the feeling is completely the same as ice and fire, okay. Ano sighed helplessly. I think, Emperor, my lord, you should have already felt it, right? You can get a glimpse of it from his attitude towards you over the years. His attitude towards me has not changed over the past year. I think it's because you have too many things in your little head, right? Kaguya denied it in a funny way, and then casually pulled away. Change the topic, okay, hurry up and follow your Emperor, he is almost gone. It's obviously from your family, right? Ano couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Looking at Ano's cute face, Kaguya couldn't help but patted her little head affectionately, and then, she took a step forward and increased her foot speed slightly. Regarding Ano's words, Kaguya knew in her heart that what she said was correct, but, she just couldn't bear to have a good conversation with him, the way some little women do. She really didn't learn much. Moreover, in the bottom of Kaguya's heart, there are still some doubts. She doesn't know whether Xiao Fan likes her, the Kaguya who is living in front of him, or the one who is supposed to live on the screen. Paper Man. If Xiao Fan really fell in love with her because of that, Paper Man, she would feel very uncomfortable, even though, from a certain perspective, they should all belong to the same person. Of course, that's all. At most, she just feels a little resentful in her heart. Anyway, what he likes, whether it is a paper figure or a living person, can be regarded as her Kaguya herself. She does not need to get angry with her and eat her own jealousy. However, what makes Kaguya feel most unbearable is that in Xiao Fan's heart, apart from her, there is still a delusion about another woman, and what's even more ironic is that that person is still her, Kaguya. I don't know how many generations later, the younger generation, every time she thought of this, she wanted to press his ugly face to the ground and rub desperately. Therefore, after Kaguya swallowed the fruit of the sacred tree, she pretended that the fruit of the sacred tree had affected her mind, in order to take this opportunity to tame him. Only in this way, he would be able to cherish this hard-won relationship. Regardless of Kaguya's various covetousness and plans for Xiao Fan, what is now before the three of them is another rather funny question. The three of them were actually blocked on the road and robbed. By the way, in today's world, except for the Six Paths Sage, who is not even a sperm, who else can stop Kaguya's edge? In addition, Kaguya has now learned immortal power. Even if she meets the Six Paths Sage, at his peak, she will probably be able to win easily, let alone these little thieves in front of her. Looking at the burly men in front of him who were shirtless and holding big swords, Xiao Fan couldn't help but chuckled with a strange expression on his face. By the way, are you sure you want to rob us? Why are you laughing? Do you want to eat a knife? The bandit leader, who was obviously the leader, shouted angrily at Xiao Fan. Although I also want to leave something valuable to you, but it is a pity. Xiao Fan regretfully took out his two empty pockets, and sighed helplessly, but, I don't have much money left at all. Stop talking nonsense. Do you think we will believe it? Next to the bandit leader, a man who was obviously acting as a dog-headed military advisor said angrily, "You think we are blind? The others didn't rob you, but they robbed you. Don't you have any idea in your heart?" Quote. Should I know something? Xiao Fan was stunned by what the robber said. What's going on? Don't you have some special reason for coming to rob me? But I don't seem to have offended you people. Could it be that they know the identity of my ancestor, the emperor? So you think I'm a big fish and want to get some money out of me? At this time, Xiao Fan could only take it for granted. HMPH. Another robber with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks stood up and gave Xiao Fan a very unpleasant look of hatred. In today's world, you actually take two young ladies on a trip. They must be yours, wife and maid, right? At this time, there are such leisurely wealthy people. Who can you rob if you don't rob them? Are you going to rob those little people who are not rich? You have ruined the reputation of this road. When the time comes, how can you still rob? Is there a good money boy like you who comes to provide us with money and food? So, the reason why you robbed us is because you think I am a rich man with two women. Xiao Fan glanced at Kaguya and Ano helplessly. Unexpectedly, it was the two of them who were the culprits, which made him think that his identity as the emperor had been exposed, and he had confessed his feelings plainly. Stop talking nonsense. Do you want money or life? The leading robber seemed to be impatient and threatened loudly. But I really don't have any money with me. Xiao Fan pointed to the two empty pockets that he had dug out with some distress. They are all empty, so there is no money for shopping. You're being a rogue, aren't you? The sharp-mouthed, monkey-cheeked man whistled a bit frivolously. It's okay if you don't have money, just use the two women behind you to pay for the road. Speaking of these two women, it's really snapped. Before he finished speaking, the bandit leader in front of him turned around and gave him a big mouthful. Looking at his stunned subordinate, the bandit leader angrily shouted, "How many times have I told you? We are professional robbers who only rob wealth but not girls. Any behaviors aimed at robbing girls and other purposes other than robbing wealth are all behaviors that deviate from our code of bandits and should be abandoned by us." "But isn't it a common practice for us bandits to rob, Mrs. Yajai?" The man with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks immediately started to resist weakly. "Can robbing, Mrs. Yajai, be called a robbery?" Well, the leading bandit leader seemed to be a little confused. After listening to the man's sophistry, he immediately turned to the brothers behind him, as what he said, reasonable. Quote. Reasonable. Immediately, there was a chorus of harmony. The leading man frowned slightly. After glancing at Kaguya and Ano with some confusion, he sighed in distress, "But I already have a wife." When he mentioned his wife, there was a hint of confusion on his face, or because he thought of his wife, the man immediately shook his head. No, how can I take Mrs. Yajai back? Otherwise, my wife will kill me. It's not appropriate. While saying these words, he glanced at Ano with some lingering eyes. It would be great if my wife could be as petite and lovely as her. As for Kaguya, he didn't dare to look at it. He felt that this person was not someone he could blaspheme and get involved with. And more importantly, the aura of majesty in Kaguya was so strong and blazing that it made him involuntarily think of the evil woman in his village, the one he could no longer deal with, and now this one seems to have more power and power around him. If he takes her back, how can he live a good life in the future? He is destined to live a life of oppression until death. In this world, which hero can conquer a woman with such a temperament and appearance? Can't be bothered. Therefore, the bandit leader took it for granted that he chose to ignore Kaguya and put all his attention on Ano. By the way, this one is different. Looking at this small family's jade-like appearance, if he can get it back, I think she should be a gentle and lovely little girl, right? But the key question is, can my jealous and evil fool agree? The man with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks next to him knew that his leader was attracted, but because he had a fierce wife at home, he didn't dare to leave Lan Xing out. As a result, the man who felt that his opportunity had come, rolled his eyes and began to make plans in his mind. So, after whispering into the leader's ear, the leader's expression changed from confusion to joy. Cough, cough. The leader pretended to cough a few times and wanted to reveal his wolfish ambitions. Unfortunately, Xiao Fan was too lazy to play with him anymore. Originally, Xiao Fan saw that this leader was a little silly and was going to tease him. But who knew that this guy just wanted to take this opportunity to break the slogan he had set at the beginning and justly rob the woman up the mountain. Being the Mrs. Yajai was just a waste of all the fun he had previously wanted to amuse. Xiao Fan turned his head and looked at Yi behind him. It seems that guy is here for you, you can figure it out yourself. Quote. Ano was speechless. Speaking of this, shouldn't you, the only male in the team, be the one to step forward to solve this kind of thing? Now what kind of thing is it to blame it on her? Ever since Ano knew that Xiao Fan was not the original emperor, she somehow lost some respect for him. Ano didn't know what kind of mentality she had, from the beginning to the end. In the end, the people she swore to be loyal to were obviously Xiao Fan and Kaguya. Why did he change his mentality so naturally? However, no matter what, now that outsiders, like bandits, are present, she can't refute Xiao Fan too much. She has to save some face for him, right? You can't let people think that the emperor has nothing to do, right? Although, these guys don't know the true identity of the emperor. After the bandit leader over there heard Xiao Fan's words, he couldn't help being overjoyed without knowing the truth. He believed that this was an act of cognition by the men in front of him, and the purpose was to sell servants to survive. Regarding this, the bandit leader is quite satisfied. This shows that this guy is quite knowledgeable. Since this man is so knowledgeable, then when the time comes to kill him, it is better not to be too slow. After all, wouldn't it be very painful for someone with such knowledge to even die? By the way, although his wife is a bit more majestic, her appearance is not too bad, I can't say. People say that they are looking forward to Shu, and they also say that people's hearts are not enough. As expected, even a little robber the boss, under the influence of lust, dares to have delusions that he shouldn't have. However, before the bandit leader could turn his careful gaze on Kaguya again, he heard a woman's voice that he thought should be gentle and pleasant. Thunder release, Chidori Chiban. Laugh, laugh. Endless thunder and lightning attached to needle-like things, shooting towards all the bandits one after another. What? In an instant, the sound of miserable hissing continued. After all, Ano was not cruel enough to kill so many people, even if she thought these people deserved to die. Because of Ano's persistence, none of the bandits present lost their lives. However, with Ano's weird means, they could no longer afford to rob Mrs. Yajai. The thought came to mind. Where are the weak men and beautiful women from some wealthy family that they robbed? They are clearly three monsters who can use magic. Humans who can use magic are called demon. There's nothing wrong with that. At this time, the bandit leader suddenly missed the evil woman in his family. Although she was a bit more vicious, she still felt very sorry for him and would never use such treacherous tactics on him. With incomparable means, at most, it's just kneeling on a stone slab. How could he be so serious as he is now? How come I was so obsessed with lard that I wanted to do those pickling things that were embarrassing to her? It's all Monkey's fault. If he hadn't made random decisions about her, how could she have done anything to regret her rotten wife? The second monkey is the man with the sharp mouth and monkey cheeks who offered advice to the bandit leader. At this time, the bandit leader no longer thought that Ano was a gentle and pleasant woman. This master was just a demon who could cast magic spells. As for Kaguya, the bandit leader did not dare to take a closer look at it. At this time, he wished that these monsters in front of him would treat him like a fart. Since I can't bear to commit more crimes, Xiao Fan will no longer attack these robbers and thugs. However, letting these people run away like this is not in line with Xiao Fan's concept of doing things. Don't looking at the piety of these people kowtowing now. Once the three of them leave, these guys will definitely become the robbers who cause trouble. While thinking about how to deal with these guys, Xiao Fan suddenly had an idea in his mind, and suddenly he had a very bold idea. In the original plot of Naruto, the Six-Paths Sage walks around the world, helping others, and gathers a large group of disciples around him. Then, he establishes a sect and establishes a large religious organization, the ninja sect. Now, if Xiao Fan wants to inherit the career of his son who is still in a sperm state, then the first thing he needs to do is to make people follow him. Let me ask, what kind of followers are there in today's world? Who is more suitable than these giant bandits now? Anyway, these guys all carry a certain amount of sin, so why not make use of the waste? Whether it's doing chores, running errands, or letting them do hard work, everything is put to good use. Of course, considering the threatening nature of these guys, Xiao Fan still took some precautions, that is, injecting some of his chakra into everyone's bodies. Once these people had strange thoughts, it can also deal with all of them in the first time. Next, Xiao Fan, Kaguya, and Ano escorted these people and went to the stronghold of these bandits. With almost no effort, Xiao Fan subdued the entire people in the village, packed them all and took them behind him and others. In the next 3 years, the team of Xiao Fan and his team grew bigger and bigger, and their reputation became more and more well-known. They were seen all over the world. Everyone in the world said that a great being named the Son of Heaven swept away all the local bandits and bullies wherever he went, and they became his followers and wandered around with him. I can no longer live in the evil countryside. Although Xiao Fan did not teach these people anything by words or deeds, when they found that the number of people following Xiao Fan was getting larger and larger, some people couldn't help but ask themselves, why? There are so many evil people, what about quantity? People often say that human beings are originally good by nature. However, the huge team following Xiao Fan seemed to be silently refuting this argument. What kind of reasons could create such a situation? What about the scene? Then, some people realized that it was because of the continuous wars on this land without a safe and stable social environment to rely on. In order to survive, everyone did everything they could, which led to the loss of ethics and morality. That's why they, as human beings, embarked on a criminal path. If there was no war on this land and everyone could live peacefully in this world, not to mention that evil people like them would become extinct because of this, but at least it would not be possible for such a large number of people to follow them behind Xiao Fan. As a result, some people with ideals and ambitions came to Xiao Fan and explained their thoughts on leaving. They wanted to work hard to end this chaotic world. For these people, as long as they are really determined people, Xiao Fan will allow them to leave. Of course, before leaving, Xiao Fan will also unlock the chakra seal that he has previously put into their bodies, and by the way, give them the name of their ninja sect members. Although this title does not mean anything, and even if they died in a foreign land after leaving, Xiao Fan would not be able to avenge them, but at least this can be regarded as an affirmation of their actions. Of course, after unlocking the chakra seals in these people's bodies, Xiao Fan did not take back the chakra retained in their bodies. Instead, like the six-path sage, he retained these chakras in their bodies. In the body, it is regarded as the bond between people. Of course, in Xiao Fan's heart, he prefers to regard it as a graduation certificate. After all, just like when he was in school in his previous life, when his studies were over, the school would also issue graduation certificates, and he gave them. There seems to be nothing wrong with leaving a certificate of completion. Every day, there are many villains who are taken away by Xiao Fan, and every day, there are also many people who are worried about the common people with ideals and are recognized by Xiao Fan and leave. This team called Ninja Sect. Fate gathers and fate separates. When Xiao Fan once again set foot on the land of his ancestors, the people behind him had all changed their faces, except for Kaguya. That's right, Kaguya was the only one left among the familiar faces, and Ano did not return to the ancestral country with Xiao Fan and Kaguya. Halfway through, she obtained Xiao Fan and Kaguya. After Kaguya's approval, he left the team. It was in a desert area filled with yellow sand. Xiao Fan and his party discovered a powerful energy source underground. After research, Xiao Fan and Wei concluded that this land should be the place called Lulan in later generations. That country is located, but at this time, the ancient Lulan country has not yet appeared. The energy source here is a collection of natural energy. In the words of the original Naruto anime, it is the dragon vein. This kind of energy is also a good thing that can enhance Kaguya's strength. When Kaguya absorbed about 75% of the power of the dragon vein here, she felt that the natural energy in her body had reached a critical point. If she continued to absorb it, it would not only be useless, but also very dangerous. It may cause a certain degree of harm to one's own body, so he stopped absorbing it. Later, with the help of Kaguya, Xiao Fan and Ano also got some light and received a certain amount of Dragon Vein energy blessing. However, during this trip to Dragon Vein, Xiao Fan and his party got to know the people living in this desert. Although they lived a difficult life, they were optimistic and their positive attitude towards life deeply infected Yi, which made her involuntarily have the idea of doing something for them. So, Ano founded a country. She wanted the poor people living in this desert to live and work in peace and contentment in the country she founded. She wanted to help the poor people in this desert get rid of their shackles. The shackles of life upon them. After consulting Xiao Fan and Yi, the name of this newly established country was finally determined as Lulan, and Yi became the first queen of the Lulan kingdom, Queen Lulan Yi a generation. The situation in the country of the ancestors is not much different from when he left. It is still a peaceful scene with men farming and women weaving. However, His Majesty the Emperor who controls the lifeblood of the country is no longer Xiao Fan. Emperor, Your Majesty. However, now that he is back, the country of the ancestors can only be his, and no one else has the right to interfere, except Kaguya. The new emperor of the ancestral country is an old acquaintance of Kaguya. Back then, Xiao Fan led the army and was deeply involved in the encirclement and suppression by various countries. However, in the ancestral country, this man took this opportunity. She won the hearts and minds of many ignorant people, and led the people to attack and kill her under the pretext of killing monsters. At that time, the only one who was still loyal to her was Ano. Of course, although Kaguya at that time had not yet swallowed the fruit of the sacred tree, according to her strength at that time, she was not something that those civilians with little fighting power could expel. However, in order to prevent Xiao Fan from going there later, rule brought trouble, so she chose to avoid it. She doesn't have much resentment towards those ordinary people, they are just a group of brainless people who have been taken advantage of. Comparing with those people has in vain lowered her IQ. However, Kaguya doesn't want to argue with those stupid people, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't want to argue with that guy who was doing his best to jump up and down in the country of the ancestors at that time. It just happened that he happened to meet today, so let's settle the old and new grudges together. When Xiao Fan heard what that guy had done, his lungs almost exploded with anger. Of course only he could bully his own mother-in-law, others, just wait to die. Although Xiao Fan does not have the strength to bully Kaguya, this does not prevent him from protecting his wife, a man. If he doesn't stand out at this time, he might as well be a coward. As for Kaguya, although for her, if she wants to punish that guy, she can solve everything with just a glare, but she has no intention of doing so. To be honest, Kaguya at this time she really enjoys this pleasant atmosphere of being cared for by Xiao Fan and shouting and killing for her. Anyway, she, Kaguya, has it all. Even if she does cause something terrible in the end, there is no need to worry, there is nothing that she, Kaguya, can't solve with a glare. If there is, then stare again. Xiao Fan and others went all the way to seize the land, and soon they were in front of the current emperor of the ancestors. Heroes, spare their lives. Heroes, spare their lives. Looking at this group of guys who were as unscrupulous as bandits, the current ancestral emperor panicked. He immediately bent over and knelt down, kowtowing. Raise your head and look at me carefully. Xiao Fan frowned slightly and ordered the current ancestral emperor with some dissatisfaction. I didn't expect that the current ancestral emperor would be such a coward. Before anything happened, he kowtowed and surrendered without inheriting the ironclad character of his predecessor, Xiao Fan, the ancestor emperor. Unexpectedly, after hearing Xiao Fan's words, the ancestral emperor started to tremble even more violently. Hero, spare my life, I know the rules and can't look at your face. If I do, I will really die. Got it. Haha. Xiao Fan was speechless and choked. What kind of mess are these? Don't worry, I didn't see your faces, so naturally there won't be any talk of settling accounts. As for the things in the palace, as long as there are heroes who like them, they will be taken away, even if you take the entire palace. It doesn't matter if they all move away, I will give the power to you friends. I just ask you guys to spare my life. The newly appointed ancestor emperor is still throwing out everything he can. Chips, trying to use money to impress these extremely fierce bandits so that they can spare his life. You don't want to recognize me anymore. Xiao Fan couldn't help but chuckled sarcastically. Anyway, I have been your emperor for many years, right? Now you are the new ancestor. The emperor is unwilling to even look at me. The emperor, doesn't it make me, the former emperor of the ancestors, feel chilling? Heaven, heaven, Lord Emperor, the new ancestral emperor, who was lying on the ground and covering his eyes, was a little stunned, as if he couldn't believe it, and muttered "Shao" several times. After Fan's words, he kowtowed again and again as if he had just woken up from a dream. The common people kowtow to the emperor. The emperor will enjoy eternal blessings and live as long as the heavens. Long live the emperor. Okay, okay. Shao Fan waved his hand impatiently. Since you now know my identity, you don't have to hide your ears anymore, right? Why don't you get up and answer me? There was majesty in Shao Fan's words. Under Shao Fan's pressure, the newly appointed emperor of the ancestors straightened up a little tremblingly. However, it seemed that his body was level with the ground. Knees, Shao Fan felt that if something went wrong, he would kneel down again and desperately kowtow and beg for mercy. However, this time, Shao Fan would not forgive this person, who asked him to offend anyone, but why he wanted to offend his own wife. The world is big and the wife is the biggest. If this person offended him, Shao Fan, then, for his pious spirit today, even if Shao Fan knew that he was just trying to survive at this time and was acting like he didn't mean what he said. With his prayer, he, Shao Fan, could generously pardon this person, but, unfortunately, he offended his wife. In this case, no wonder he is cruel. However, although this person wanted to be killed, Shao Fan felt that he should give him a chance to know his sins. After all, Shao Fan thought that he was still very kind and kind. However, when he knew the reason why he died, Shao Fan, in order to please his wife, should he let this person's car be broken up, or should he be quartered by 5 horses, or should he be executed in Lingqi? That is another story. Something happened. However, before Shao Fan could ask, this person was extremely bachelor and directly bowed his head and confessed, "Son of Heaven, the villain deserves to die. It is the villain who should not have ascended the throne and proclaimed himself emperor during your absence. Son of Heaven, Lord is blinded, and it is really disrespectful to try to replace the emperor. I hope the emperor will take care of the hard work of the villain who has been conscientiously managing the domestic affairs of the ancestors over the years. This time, I promise to be a good person in the future and strive to contribute my share to the emperor and the country of our ancestors." The new ancestral emperor's attitude of admitting his mistake was very sincere. However, Shao Fan waved his right hand indifferently. "None of this is important. It seems that you really don't know the sins you have committed. Do you still need this emperor to help you recall it?" Shao Fan's words were full of angry oppression, meaning, the new ancestral emperor raised his head in confusion, his expression filled with disbelief. He has succeeded in usurping the throne, which should be regarded as the top crime, but under the circumstances of the former ancestral emperor in his mouth, it was just an insignificant thing. If this is not considered a sin, then what of the crimes that the former ancestor emperor said he had committed were worthy of his special mention? It can't be the concubine he led the villagers to hunt him down before, right? She's just an insignificant woman. She can't be more serious than him usurping the throne, right? The newly appointed emperor immediately expelled this very unreliable thought from his mind and racked his brains to recall his life, trying to find some clues of the crimes he had committed. But what a pity is, nothing. Looking at the confused expression of the new emperor, Shao Fan finally felt impatient. Immediately, not wanting to waste any more time, he took a step forward, grabbed the opponent's collar and beat him hard. He cried for his father and mother. Looking at the new emperor who had become a pighead, Shao Fan finally calmed down a little from the unhappiness in his heart. Then, Shao Fan squatted down slightly, leaned next to the new emperor, and condemned in a very low tone, "I don't care about other things, but you should never do it. You shouldn't, you dare to lead people to hunt down my wife. Then, I'm sorry, I can only use your dog's head to soothe my wife's wounded heart." Hearing Shao Fan's words, the new emperor's pupils shrank. He didn't expect, did the problem actually lie with his concubine? To this day, this stupid new emperor still thinks that Kaguya is just Shao Fan's concubine. Little does he know, Kaguya is the person Shao Fan has decided to stay with for life. "Come on, pull down," Shao Fan shouted to the followers on the side. Among the followers who had long been accustomed to obeying Xiao Fan's orders, two burly men walked out. Without saying a word, they picked up the new emperor and left. The new emperor felt something was wrong, and immediately shouted in horror, "Son of Emperor, please have mercy on me. My lord, Son of Heaven, please have mercy on me. I am definitely useful to you. I beg you, Lord Emperor, to have mercy on you. Have mercy." However, everyone present remained silent in response to this man's sad voice. Wait a minute. Just when the new emperor was so frightened that he almost peed his pants, suddenly, a middle-aged man with yellow teeth and a skinny body walked out from among Xiao Fan's followers. "What, you want to plead for him? Or, you want to eat meat?" Xiao Fan frowned. He really didn't like this person. "Your Majesty, it's been a long time since I've eaten the fragrant, two-legged sheep, so, can you give it to me?" The middle-aged man with yellow teeth said with a flattering smile. "Didn't I tell you to quit eating meat? Why are you still stubborn?" Xiao Fan frowned, not liking some of this person's bad habits. Originally, Xiao Fan didn't want to save this man's life, but considering that this man was really easy to use and had great ability in doing things, Xiao Fan finally put an end to his thoughts of killing him. "Sir, Emperor, I want to follow that master. Please let me go and let me follow that master. I am willing to follow that master." At this moment, the new emperor seemed to feel that he should be arrested. With a glimmer of hope, he immediately asked loudly. After hearing the new emperor's request, everyone's expressions became more and more strange, and they looked at the new emperor with a hint of sympathy. "Look, sir, this guy has taken the initiative to follow me, isn't he?" The middle-aged man with yellow teeth rubbed his hands in excitement, begging with both expectation and anxiety, They all want to follow me. If I don't condition them properly, wouldn't I be very sorry for their high expectations?" Xiao Fan glanced at the new emperor of his ancestral country, who was staring at him with a look of supplication, and sighed helplessly. "I really hope he can still maintain this look later." The color of hope. Although the new emperor will definitely die today, it would be too unkind to fall into the hands of the devil in front of him. Therefore, with a compassionate and benevolent heart, Xiao Fan felt it is necessary for him to awaken the new emperor and let him choose the correct way to die. "Are you sure you want to follow this guy?" Xiao Fan pointed at the middle-aged man with yellow teeth and reminded him in a comforting manner, "You must know that this guy you want to follow, but he is a true devil, so I hope you can make a rational decision." "I am very rational now, I will follow that adult." However, the new emperor's will was unexpectedly firm. "He has a nickname of Ogre. Are you sure you want to follow him?" Xiao Fan felt that he probably didn't know the details of this guy. So, Xiao Fan directly told the guy's details. Everything was exposed in front of the new emperor. "I know, who would have expected that?" To Xiao Fan's surprise, the new emperor actually knew the details of the person in front of him, the man-eating general of the Iron Country. "I have seen his wanted order. So, I know him." "Since you know, why do you?" Xiao Fan suddenly realized that he didn't understand his successor. "I only ask you to promise me one thing." The new emperor looked at Xiao Fan with a look of expectation. "If he doesn't eat me, I would like to ask you not to hold me accountable for my mistakes from now on." "I don't know. Son of Heaven, are you willing to give me this opportunity?" "No." Xiao Fan shook his head and refused without thinking. "It was okay if I didn't know before. Now, since I know the mistakes you have made, there is no reason to forgive you." "Why, are you afraid, Emperor?" The new emperor smiled coldly and said, "Afraid that your man-eating general will really let me go? When will our wise and powerful emperor also have you become so timid?" Knowing that Xiao Fan would not let him go, the new emperor immediately gave up his pleading attitude and stared at Xiao Fan mockingly with a cold face. "Don't be aggressive with me, it's of no use to me." Xiao Fan also sneered at him, "Even if you break the rules today, you will still die." Amidst the resentment of the new emperor and the sadness of the cannibal general, Kaguya, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke, "In that case, we will accept your challenge." The new emperor suddenly raised his head and looked at the indifferent Kaguya with some disbelief. He was very surprised. He really didn't expect that he would have the opportunity to make a bright future in another village. Xiao Fan also looked at Kaguya with some confusion. He couldn't understand. Didn't Kaguya have some grudges with her? Why did you suddenly agree to this guy's request? Facing everyone's surprised or puzzled expressions, Kaguya said to the new emperor very calmly, "The reason why I agree to you is just to prove that no matter how you struggle, you will still be unable to escape death until the end. Fate, and the reason why the emperor did not agree to your previous unreasonable request was not because he was afraid of losing to you, but because he was unwilling to watch you become blood food and become someone else's plate. Meal, since you are determined to be a vegetarian, how can we stop you?" After hearing Kaguya's words, Xiao Fan understood Kaguya's meaning immediately. The reason why Kaguya agreed to the new emperor's challenge was, in the final analysis, just because he didn't want Xiao Fan to be hung up on him. The labels, fearful, and cowardly. In an instant, Xiao Fan felt that he was touched. It turned out that in Kaguya's heart, she always cared about him, otherwise, she would not have agreed to the new emperor because of Xiao Fan's reputation. This situation should not have existed. Challenge. In a kitchen where the fire was extremely strong, the cannibal general was tearing the clothes of the new emperor with salivation. Don't get me wrong, he just wanted to give his staple food to him before cooking. Just a good cleanup. Don't you see, before slaughtering a big fat pig, the butcher has to bathe it and pluck it properly. Facing the man-eating general with such an attitude, although the new emperor turned pale with fear, he was still doing the ideological work to ask him to let him go. Make a condition. How can you let me go? The new emperor obediently soaked in the bathtub prepared by the cannibal king, and enjoyed the cannibal king loosening his bones, massaging, plucking hair, trim attentive service. Facing the new emperor's questions, the cannibal general showed little interest in answering, and was still busy with the work in his hands non-stop. Don't you want to know what happened after you left the Iron Kingdom? The new emperor tried to talk about some topics that could arouse his interest, but it was a pity that the cannibal generals all stayed silent. Originally, to other countries, the Kingdom of Iron was a mysterious, low-key and little-known country. However, after Kaguya's infinite Tsukuyomi, before the battle of all nations against the ancestor, because of the Kingdom of Iron, because of the powerful strength shown by the two generals in the battle to encircle and suppress Xiao Fan, more and more countries have included the Kingdom of Iron as a country of focus. Therefore, for the current leader of the Kingdom of Ancestral, as far as the new emperor is concerned, he really knows a lot of information about the Iron Kingdom. However, looking at the cannibal general like this, he doesn't seem to be particularly concerned about it. I can understand that you don't want to know the national conditions of the Iron Kingdom. Don't you? You also don't want to know about your children. They are always looking forward to getting news from you. Looking at what seemed to be Yuyan the cannibal general who refused to advance, the new emperor of the ancestral country had no choice but to use his trump card. He believed that tiger poison would not eat its seeds, let alone humans. Sure enough, the cannibal general who had been busy stopped what he was doing, as if he finally heard his words, stared at him with bright eyes, and asked excitedly in a very excited tone. He said, "So, you know their current whereabouts?" The new emperor couldn't help but chuckled proudly in his heart. "No matter how aloof, arrogant and cold you are, do you still want to drink my foot-washing water?" Of course, in terms of face, the new emperor would not show a strange expression without any thought. Just when the new emperor was about to take action, he suddenly saw the cannibal general showing a ferocious smile. "That's really great, if I have a chance. I have to wash them and make soup for them." Gah! The new emperor's eyes widened in astonishment. Why was this completely different from what he had expected? You know, the reason why the new emperor still insisted on leaving with him after recognizing the cannibal general was because he had some clues about his descendants, so he confidently dared to ask Xiao Fan otherwise. Even if he died, how could he be willing to fall into the hands of this demon? But now, the new emperor suddenly felt that he seemed to regret it. Immediately, the new emperor felt something bad and wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to escape, or he would feel more at ease if he had a weapon in hand first, even though he knew that it was of no use what he did. But at this moment, the new emperor suddenly discovered with some horror that he seemed to be unable to move suddenly. The unknown situation made the new emperor feel that death was approaching. He couldn't help but open his mouth and shout for help. He really regretted it. He felt that if he had known this, he would have resigned himself to his fate and be killed by Xiao Fan. Forget about executing him. Why bother going to this current situation? However, What still makes the new emperor feel desperate is that he can't make a sound. So, with an expression of extreme fear, the new emperor's tears and snot all came down, like a faucet that was turned on, rushing out. Why are you crying? Look, the water is all dirty. It's really, I have to change the water for you and wash it again. It's such a waste of time. The cannibal general sighed helplessly. He was scolding the new emperor as if he was condemning. Okay, stop crying. Can I wipe it for you? As he said that, the cannibal general used the washing water from under the new emperor to clean the dirt on his face. Immediately afterwards, the cannibal general prepared hot water for him again. To be honest, I should thank you. After all, you told me the news about my children no matter what, but it's not good for you to offend anyone, but you have to offend that female devil. Ahem, you have to. What about offending the sect master's wife? Tell me, why are you seeking death? The cannibal general taunted the new emperor in a very pitiful tone, how much the sect master loves the sect master's wife. Even if the sect master's wife wants the stars in the sky, I'm afraid the lord of the sect will also find a way to get a piece of it. Do you think you can survive after offending the wife of the sect? Seriously, you have made more money by living for so many more years. Just be content. The new emperor listened to the words of the cannibal general in fear, and his eyes were fixed on the cannibal general in fear. He blinked his eyes with all his strength, hoping to get a chance to speak. The cannibal general seemed to understand the psychology of food very well. Dangji reached out and untied the restraints he had left on the new emperor. What do you want to say? You can speak now. I can give you a lot of money. I am the emperor of the country of my ancestors. I can give you the wealth you want. The new emperor opened his price in a hurried tone, deeply afraid of food. The National People's Congress will control his body again, and he doesn't want to experience that feeling of powerlessness again. Stop. The cannibal general stretched out his hand to stop the new emperor's chattering. You are no longer His Majesty the Emperor. From the moment you become the food under my knife, you must be as good as a food. Be mentally prepared. Although I am not His Majesty the Emperor, I have a lot of money that I have secretly withheld from the treasury. Give it all to you. I will give it all to you. I hope you can spare me one life. The new emperor prayed desperately. I hope this can help me find a way to survive. However, the cannibal general is not very interested in high-value items such as gold, silver, and jewelry, so the new emperor's remarks are destined to be in vain. However, the new emperor, who did not know the psychology of the cannibal general, had no reason to believe that the cannibal general had been attracted by the chips he had thrown out. In order to prevent the cannibal general from deceiving the location of his property, the new emperor warned the cannibal general with some lack of confidence. No one knows where the money is except me, so if you want to get those properties, you must let me go first, then I will accompany you to get the money, otherwise I won't tell you anything. Don't worry, you can just keep the money there. No one will care about your scraps. The cannibal general smiled with disdain. Hearing the words of the cannibal general, the new emperor's heart immediately felt cold. He didn't expect that in this world, there are actually people who regard money as dirt. It is really unimaginable. I can prepare many ingredients for you, as long as you have that wealth. What kind of ingredients can't be bought? Although his heart was already cold, the new emperor was still there making a last-ditch effort, hoping to lure the cannibal general. TCH. The cannibal general curled his lips with disdain. Can your belongings be able to buy the emperor of another country? Of course not. The new emperor vetoed it without thinking. Then it's over. The cannibal general responded to the new emperor in a very matter-of-fact tone. Do you think I can eat all the ingredients? How can those ordinary things compare to the king of a country? What about the taste? Since your money can't buy the emperor of another country, then why should I make this deal with you? Just for some pig food. Quote. Facing the strong-looking Zhang Xiaomi, Chen Nan felt puzzled. He had always been against her before and even spanked her. This crazy fool should hate herself. Why did she have to give her body to her instead? Woolen cloth. I can't do it, Chen Nan said directly. Zhang Xiaomi picked up the coffee and took a sip. Yes, it was not a drink, but a gulp. It was a big mouthful. He drank more than half of the cup in one sip. If you disobey me today, I won't do you this favor. Chen Nan said. Does it have to be like this? Nonsense, I never joke. Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. Chen Nan took a sip of coffee, then stood up and said, you drink slowly, I'll pay the bill and go back to school. Seeing that Chen Nan wanted to leave, Zhang Xiaomi immediately punched the table angrily, you fool, stop. Chen Nan smiled helplessly. I can't agree to your conditions. Zhang Xiaomi's face was full of depression. He rolled his eyes and said angrily, if you don't agree, you won't agree. Do you deserve to leave? If you talk to me too much, you will die. Since you won't help me, of course I'm anxious to find someone else to help. I didn't say I wouldn't help you. Zhang Xiaomi stared at him and said, forget it, I won't force you. As long as you stay with me for an afternoon today, I will help you. This. Chen Nan was a little hesitant. Zhang Xiaomi slapped her hand on the table and said angrily, I like you so much, you will die if you stay with me. It wasn't that Chen Nan didn't want to accompany her, he was just thinking, if he stayed with Zhang Xiaomi all afternoon, would that Su Qingqing have any objections? For the sake of that half-picture scroll, I couldn't care less about that fool. Chen Nan nodded and said, okay, but we have agreed that this afternoon, I will not accompany you in the evening, so don't try to take advantage of me. I took advantage of you. Why don't you die? Zhang Xiaomi felt that she had never been so depressed. Even if she wanted him to accompany her at night, with her face and body, wouldn't he still be at a disadvantage? I'm not wrong. Although you are not bad looking, we still need to speak clearly. Okay, I'm not that shameless. What are you worrying about? Zhang Xiaomi drank all the coffee in the cup, stood up and said, let's go, come with me to the bar for a while. Chen Nan looked at the clock on the wall and said, at this time, the bar is not open yet, right? Zhang Xiaomi shook his head, pulled him up and left, I know a place that's open 24 hours a day. Just follow me. Chen Nan was speechless. He seriously doubted that this crazy woman dragged him to the bar because she wanted to get him drunk and then have a domineering girl forcefully love her. After paying the bill, Chen Nan and Zhang Xiaomi walked out of the coffee shop. After arriving outside, Chen Nan was about to take a taxi, but Zhang Xiaomi stopped her. Then she made a phone call and asked someone to send a taxi over. 10 minutes later, a middle-aged man roared over on a 90-year-old motorcycle and stopped on the side of the road. Uncle Wang, please excuse me. Zhang Xiaomi walked over with a smile. Wang, who got off the motorcycle, handed the key to Zhang Xiaomi, and asked with concern, Miss, you are not in school, why did you run out? Why do you need a motorcycle? Don't worry about this. Zhang Xiaomi leaned over, pointed secretly at Chen Nan, and said in a low voice, I'm dating a handsome guy. Wang, who was stunned for a moment, then with an expression that I understood, he smiled and said, then I won't bother you, let's go first. When he reached the roadside, Wang Hu hailed a taxi and left. He was very puzzled. Didn't this eldest lady previously boast that no man could conquer her? Why are you taking the initiative to pick up handsome guys now? Is your brain finally clearing up? Zhang Xiaomi jumped on the motorcycle and said to Chen Nan, why are you still standing there? Get on the bus. Chen Nan walked over reluctantly. I'm a man no matter what, so why would I lose my face if I let you drive a woman? You get off the car and let me ride. Zhang Xiaomi patted the seat, frowned slightly, and stared at Chen Nan. Don't forget that you are my wife this afternoon. You must obey me in everything. Do you dare not to get in the car? Chen Nan was depressed, but had no choice but to jump up. Seeing the aggrieved look on Chen Nan's face, Zhang Xiaomi felt very proud and thought to herself, who told you to reject me? Well, I just want to make you depressed. The more depressed you are, the happier I will be. Zhang Xiaomi thought excitedly and was about to start the car, but at this moment, Chen Nan's cell phone rang. When he took it out and looked at it, Chen Nan frowned. It turned out to be Zhu Baji's wretched guy. Baji, what's wrong? Chen Nan asked. Brother, Zhang Jiji and I were beaten, oh, my butt. Chen Nan frowned. What's wrong with your butt? Has your anus been blown? No, absolutely not, brother, you have to believe that as long as my chrysanthemums bloom. Get out of here, sister. Chen Nan laughed and cursed. Who beat you? You can't die, can you? It's hard to say, let's talk about it when the time comes. I'm still alive for now, but I can't die. Okay, where is it? Let me take a look. Chen Nan said. Central Hospital, Ward No XX, Inpatient Department. Chen Nan smiled and said, Hold on and don't die. Even if you are going to die, you have to wait until my brother comes to see you off. Brother, I will kill you. Go away. After Chen Nan hung up the phone, he looked at Zhang Xiaomi and said, Zhu Baji and the others were beaten. Come to the hospital with me first. Okay, I'll go with you. Zhang Xiaomi nodded, then started the motorcycle and put it into gear. He turned the accelerator handle and released the clutch in an instant. Suddenly, the front wheel flew half a meter high and the motorcycle flew away instantly. Her ferocious way of starting made Chen Nan startled, and he was almost thrown out of the sky. He hurriedly hugged Zhang Xiaomi's waist to steady himself. Zhang Xiaomi's face was full of excitement. This was the effect she wanted. I don't believe I can't date you with the surname Chen. Zhang Xiaomi felt furious in his heart, and then he sharply increased the accelerator, and the speed of the car soared again. Ordinary motorcycles are all 125 type, which has a displacement of liters. However, Zhang Xiaomi's sports car has a displacement of liters, which is basically equivalent to a van's engine installed on a motorcycle. On the road, the powerful horsepower needs no explanation, and its acceleration performance can be imagined. In just 4 seconds, the speed had increased to 100 yards. But at this moment, Zhang Xiaomi suddenly released her foot from the accelerator and slammed on the brakes. There was a sharp friction sound from the rear wheels, and then she turned and drifted directly across the intersection. Although Chen Nan was excellent in martial arts, he couldn't help but lean forward and throw himself hard on Zhang Xiaomi's back. When drifting around the corner, if he hadn't hugged Zhang Xiaomi's waist tightly, he might have been seriously injured. Throw it out. You will die if you slow down. I still want to live for a few more years. Zhang Xiaomi curled her lips in disdain and said, You coward, just hold me tight, I won't kill you. Hold tight. Hearing these 2 words, Chen Nan understood instantly, you are so violent just to take advantage of me. Who took advantage of whom? It's obviously you who is holding my waist, so you are taking advantage of me, okay. Zhang Xiaomi said proudly. Chen Nan didn't bother to argue with her. This crazy woman took advantage of her and refused to admit it. She was even thicker skinned than herself. You're such a loser. Do you think I'm willing to hug you? As long as you slow down, I promise not to touch you. Take a moment. Bucket waist. These 3 words were like a bolt of lightning striking Zhang Xiaomi, making her furious instantly. You fool named Chen, I have such a good figure, how dare you say that I have a waist like a bucket? You have such a good figure. Chen Nan said. When I say you have a slim waist, that's just to compliment you. In fact, you are completely slim. Ah, Zhang Xiaomi screamed a few times and went completely berserk. Asshole, I'll beat you to death. Zhang Xiaomi pushed the accelerator to the bottom, and the motorcycle flew forward quickly. Chen Nan leaned back, but then Zhang Xiaomi stepped on the brake sharply, causing Chen Nan to lean forward quickly and steadily. Unable to hold back, he hit her directly on the back of the head, almost breaking her nose. You crazy fool, take it easy. Chen Nan said angrily. You dare to say that I have a bad figure. If I don't kill you today, I won't call you Zhang Xiaomi. Zhang Xiaomi said viciously, and then kept accelerating and decelerating violently, swaying left and right, causing Chen Nan to hug her tightly and press his body tightly against hers, otherwise, he would have to be she can't play to death. Aren't you awesome? If you have the guts, don't hug me. Zhang Xiaomi said very proudly. Chen Nan was too lazy to scold her. He hugged her tightly with both hands and put his head next to her ear. He could still vaguely smell the faint fragrance of her body. If it was not there, it made people want to bury their heads in her body and take a deep breath. Smell enough. Chen Nan swallowed and looked at her snow-white neck, feeling a little evil in his heart. What would it feel like if you took a bite? The thoughts in Chen Nan's mind were getting more and more evil. In addition, the 2 people were close to each other. As the speed of the car continued to increase and decrease, they continued to rub against each other. Chen Nan felt that his lower abdomen had become a little. The heat is on. And a certain part is constantly expanding and gradually standing upright. Hey, stop messing around, something will happen. Chen Nan felt that he couldn't control the growth of the body below. Zhang Xiaomi still kept shaking and groaned. Are you scared? Well, as long as you beg me, I won't scare you anymore. Chen Nan, aren't you happy? Chen Nan. Huh, don't make any noise, right? Then I'll give you something more violent, and I'll scare you to death. Zhang Xiaomi controlled the motorcycle to swing left and right, and the friction between the two bodies became more intense. Chen Nan's lower body it's growing rapidly. Hey! After gaining enough speed, Zhang Xiaomi slammed on the brakes. Suddenly, Chen Nan's body slipped forward. The distance he had deliberately opened could no longer be maintained, and a certain part of his body directly pressed against Zhang Xiaomi's buttocks. Hey, what do you have in your pants pocket? It's so uncomfortable to hold it against my butt. Take it away quickly, Zhang Xiaomi said. Chen Nan was helpless. Does this thing mean it can be taken away? He also wanted to take it away, but the problem was that he couldn't. Seeing that Chen Nan was motionless, Zhang Xiaomi suddenly frowned, reached out and grabbed Chen Nan's penis directly from behind. The sudden stimulation made Chen Nan take a breath of air. You pervert, grab whatever you want, let go. Zhang Xiaomi felt like she had caught a warm stick, and wondered what it was. Wallet. The shape is wrong. Cell phone. It doesn't seem right. Zhang Xiaomi was extremely confused and asked, what is this? The shape is so weird. You still need to ask. Chen Nan was speechless. He couldn't tell her that it was his penis, right? He had no choice but to say, don't worry about what it is, just let go. Zhang Xiaomi not only did not let go, but tightened her grip, and said curiously, isn't this some kind of treasure? I won't let go until you tell me what it is. This can't be said. Chen Nan was very depressed. How could his brother be so unlucky? Zhang Xiaomi actually caught him. Why can't you tell me? Zhang Xiaomi's face was full of doubts. She turned back to look at Chen Nan and said, if you don't tell me, I'll pull this thing out and see what happens. After saying that, she grabbed the weird-shaped thing and pulled it hard a few times, and found that it couldn't be pulled. Chen Nan was in so much pain that she almost burst into tears. Don't pull it, that's my big bird. Big bird. Zhang Xiaomi was stunned for a moment, then he seemed to think of something. His face felt a little hot, and he hurriedly let go of his hand. You told me earlier, you dirty my hands. I think you got the advantage and behaved well. Chen Nan said. Fart, I don't want to catch that piece of shit of yours. Zhang Xiaomi said depressedly, then seemed to think of something, and said excitedly, you are so hard to ride in my car, how dare you say that you were right? Don't I feel it? It feels like fart. This is just an instinctive physiological reaction. Zhang Xiaomi snorted coldly and said, if you didn't like me, how would you react? Nonsense. Don't tell me you are a woman. Even if you do it with your own hands, it will still be hard. Is it possible that I still have feelings for my own hands? This time it was Zhang Xiaomi's turn to be speechless. This guy's moral integrity is shattered to pieces, there is no lower limit. 10 minutes later, the two arrived at the inpatient department of the hospital. The moment he opened the door and walked into the ward, Chen Nan heard a sound of coming from inside. It was a woman's scream, which was very erotic. Looking inside, he saw Zhu Baji lying on the bed, holding a mobile phone in his hand, playing a blockbuster film about the island country, while Zhang Zhongyi was leaning next to him, both of them staring intently and watching with great enthusiasm. Even Chen Nan and Zhang Xiaomi didn't notice when they walked into the room. Chen Nan was completely speechless. He was injured and hospitalized, but he still had the heart to watch films. He just wanted to watch films, and he didn't even wear headphones. No quality, so immoral. Seeing how shamelessly these two guys acted, Chen Nan stretched out his hand and banged the door twice. As he walked in, he cursed, Grandma, calling you beasts is an insult to the word beast. Lying on the ground. Is it shameful for you to watch movies in a public place instead of taking care of yourself in the hospital? Is it dirty or not? Ask yourself, are you worthy of the party and the people? The two guys trembled all over and turned their heads hurriedly. When he saw that the person who came in was Chen Nan, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. But why is there someone following him? Zhang Xiaomi. The two guys' eyes widened immediately and they hurriedly turned off the film. Brother, am I? Sister, am I? How did you hook up? What do you mean we hooked up? Don't you think I and he are a perfect match? Zhang Xiaomi strode in, staring at the mobile phone in front of them. Those eyes seemed to say, you dare to say no, I want you to look good. Zhang Zhongyi and Zhu Baji left school during nap time and were unaware of Zhang Xiaomi's confession. Although they don't understand the specific story of the matter at the moment, they can basically guess from Zhang Xiaomi's words just now that this savage woman and the eldest brother must have had an affair. Absolutely. Yes, sister am I. No, my sister-in-law is right. You are simply like flying birds in the sky and twigs on the ground. Zhu Baji chuckled. His expression was like a blooming chrysanthemum. How could he be so mean? Chen Nan didn't bother to explain, so he walked over and looked at the two of them. How are you injured? Zhu Baji lay on the bed, touched his butt, and cursed. Those grandsons were too harsh. I got a knife on my butt, and Zhang Jiji got a knife on his hand. Chen Nan's face gradually turned cold. Who did it? Xiao Zhanren and the others. Zhu Baji covered his buttocks and said with a grimace. During the nap, Jiji Zhang and I were going to go online, but we were blocked by Xiao Zhanren on the way. Grandma, if there weren't so many of them, they are so powerful and they even have knives, I will crush a few of them to death. Chen Nan nodded. He must have taught Xiao Zhanren a lesson last time on the rooftop, so he put the blame on Zhu Baji and the others. You go out first, Chen Nan said to Zhang Xiaomi. Why? Zhang Xiaomi looked unhappy. Chen Nan pointed at Zhu Baji and said, I'm going to put medicine on his butt. Do you want to see it? Zhang Xiaomi rolled his eyes, turned around and left honestly. Chen Nan glanced at Zhu Baji's bandaged butt and said with a smile, do you know why your butt was stabbed? It's because you are too fat and the target is too big. Zhu Baji scratched his head and said with a smile, then I will eat and drink well in the future to gain enough energy and work hard to lose weight. I just know how to eat. If you can't bear it, I'll forget it. Chen Nan laughed and cursed, then reached out to untie the bandage, took out the potion and dripped 2 drops on the wound. Holy shit, it feels so refreshing. It's so refreshing. Zhu Baji was so excited that he almost burst into tears. Brother, what kind of medicine is this? It's so amazing. I will tell you after you successfully lose weight. Zhu Baji rolled his eyes and was speechless. If he wants to lose weight, he probably won't be able to succeed in his next life. Chen Nan shook his head with a wry smile, put 2 more drops on Zhang Zhongyi's arm, and said, it will be healed in 2 minutes. Do you know where that little fool is now? Let's take revenge later. Okay, I'm going to beat that fool to death this time. Zhu Baji said fiercely, she should be surfing the internet in an internet cafe. Chen Nan nodded, then picked up the mobile phone on the bed, opened the previous film, and continued to play it. Zhang Zhongyi and Zhu Baji were both speechless. This guy had a righteous look when he came in, despising them for watching films, but now he turned into the blink of an eye. Brother, don't you feel dirty and vulgar watching this kind of movie? Zhu Baji said. Chen Nan lit a cigarette, stared at the screen of his mobile phone, and said without looking back, how can such an elegant blockbuster be so dirty and vulgar? Let me tell you, I would rather believe that there are wolves in the world who don't eat meat, and don't believe that there are men who don't have love. Even if there are 1 or 2 top men occasionally, it's because of dysfunction. Brother, you made me understand what it means to dress like a beast. Zhang Zhongyi couldn't help but muttered. Without saying a word, Chen Nan took out a cigarette and stuffed it into his mouth. Smoke your cigarette. You're still moaning while watching a movie. You act like a girl. It's just a disgrace. Zhang Zhongyi was completely speechless. From beginning to end, he didn't seem to say half as much as he did, right? Zhu Baji also gave him the middle finger and said contemptuously, you are not serious about watching a movie. If you look carefully, this woman should be about to squirt. Squirt, Chen Nan said. Look at her figure. She has breasts but no breasts, but. She is as thin as a bamboo pole. I bet she won't be able to squirt even if she is killed. Zhu Baji suddenly raised his head and said proudly, brother, you are definitely losing. I have watched this movie 10 times. I will definitely squirt in 5 seconds. You can't be wrong. Watched it 10 times. Both Chen Nan and Zhang Zhongyi have black lines on their heads. Sure enough, just after Zhu Baji finished speaking, he really squirted not long after. At this time, the door of the ward was pushed open, and Zhang Xiaomi strode in, pointed at the 3 of them and cursed, you 3 wretches, you actually tricked me out, and you are hiding in here. Watching films, your moral integrity is being eaten by dogs. Chen Nan turned off the video and said with a smile, do you also want to watch it with us? Zhang Xiaomi was stunned for a moment, but then he didn't show any weakness. He took a few steps forward, leaned in front of Chen Nan and said, Humph, I will watch it alone with you. If I have the courage, do you have the courage? Zhang Zhongyi and Zhu Baji were both stunned. These two people seemed to be having an affair. Facing the tough Zhang Xiaomi, Chen Nan took a weak step back. Seeing as you are a woman, I won't care about you. Then he looked at Zhu Baji and said, the wound doesn't hurt anymore, right? Let's take revenge. Go. Zhu Baji scratched his butt and jumped up excitedly. It doesn't hurt anymore, it really doesn't hurt anymore. Zhang Xiaomi originally wanted Chen Nan to accompany her to play, but when she heard that she was going to fight with Xiao Zhanren, she immediately followed him with excitement on her face, saying she wanted to watch the fun. In this way, a group of 4 people left the hospital in a grand manner. Chen Nan and Zhang Xiaomi rode motorcycles, while Zhu Baji and the others took a taxi and headed towards Tianyu Internet Cafe. 10 minutes later, 4 people appeared at the door of the Internet Cafe. Since Zhu Baji and Zhang Zhongyi were regular visitors to the Internet Cafe and were familiar with the layout inside, they started looking around after the bar. Not long after, Xiao Zhanren and several of his younger brothers were found in a corner. Chen Nan glanced at Xiao Zhanren, who was playing a game. He strode over, reached out and grabbed Xiao Zhanren's hair and pulled it hard. The pain caused him to scream, "Ah," and he rolled off his seat. "Fall down and lie on your head on the ground. Who the hell is grabbing my hair? I want to die." Xiao Zhanren cursed loudly and got up in disgrace, his face full of anger. But when he saw clearly that the person in front of him was Chen Nan, he suddenly trembled all over, turned pale with fear, and subconsciously took a step back. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.